The story begins in a castle, smoke and flames consuming the rear of the building. In the kitchen, a young woman kneaded dough, perhaps preparing a hearty dinner. After tearing the dough into 3 pieces, she quickly dropped them into a broth, the neatly chopped ingredients adding to its appeal. Suddenly, the sound of people rushing up the stairs echoed from the distance. The young woman paid no attention to the commotion, innocently ladling the soup into a bowl. More and more soldiers raced up the stairs, the situation seemingly growing dire. As for the young woman, after ladling the soup, she delicately tasted it with a spoon. The captain of the guard burst through the kitchen door, flinging it open. "The princess is here," he announced. Startled, the young woman turned at the sound of her title. Unfazed by her royal status, she quickly finished the spoonful of food, saying through mouthfuls, "I am indeed the princess, but wait, let me do more." The captain of the guard, slightly bewildered, asked, "Our 6th princess, Lu, Ro, and I." His suspicion was understandable. Seeing her disheveled appearance, who would believe she was a princess? Lu, Ro, and I, still devouring her food, replied, "Yes." At this point, not only was he speechless, but the surrounding soldiers were also rendered silent. "Take her away," he ordered the soldiers. In a blink of an eye, Lu, Ro, and I was dragged off. "My instant bibimbap," she cried. "Let it no more." She was indeed taken away, leaving her bowl abandoned on the floor. The scene shifted to a grand cathedral. A crowd gathered before a stage. At the center stood a young man in a black cloak, awaiting the start of the ceremony. Even the royal family was not exempt. They all knelt. A familiar voice called out, excuse me, excuse me." Lu, Ro, and I pushed her way through the crowd. After some jostling, she finally reached her family, knelt down, and breathed a sigh of relief, much to the surprise of the other members. A voice whispered in Lu Roni's ear, "Here, this is the royal family's place. You'll die if you sit here. Sit somewhere else." These kind words came from a young woman with golden hair, the eldest princess of the Ingred kingdom. Lu, Ro, and I asked, puzzled, "But I'm also royalty." The 2 people beside her were taken aback. Then, the red-haired princess spoke. "I remember now. I heard that there's a little girl living in the abandoned palace." As soon as she finished speaking, whispers erupted behind them. They began gossiping about Lu Roni's identity. "Is she the maid's child? That girl is still alive? How pitiful." However, Lu, Ro, and I ignored them, thinking to herself, "Go ahead and laugh. Everyone here will lose their heads anyway." She thought this because she knew the future of this kingdom. In her past life, before she died, she had read a novel, a famous romantic fantasy. The female lead was Ingred, a woman of exceptional beauty, and the male lead was a tyrannical emperor who dreamed of conquering the continent. Ingrid was summoned to the Imperial palace by the emperor, but she refused. Thus, the enraged emperor ordered the duke to take over the kingdom. And that was the princess of the kingdom he took over. It was a cliché love story about the second male lead falling for the main female lead. And I, the princess who didn't appear in the story, was reborn as Lu, Ro, and I. Born to the king and a maid, I despaired at my fate of living in the abandoned palace. No matter what I did, death was inevitable, so I decided to enjoy life. I just needed to breathe, eat whatever I wanted, and then die. It would be nice to die with a full stomach. Lu Roni's carefree attitude throughout the whole ordeal was admirable. Back in the present, the figure at the center of the stage began to walk forward. His steps were firm, his demeanor confident. Lu, Ro, and I fretted over earlier events. I was dragged here before I could finish my bibimbap. The sound of soldiers carried on the air. "Have they all been captured?" "Yes, sir." The conquering army's general, the Legion Duke, stood on high ground, observing the throng below. The royal family's dignity had vanished. Everyone knelt, trembling, except for Lu, Ro, and I, whose attention was elsewhere. His uniform was chocolate-colored. It looked delicious. The red-haired princess from earlier began to tremble, shaking as if the world was ending. "I don't want to die here." Lu, Ro, and I continued her idle thoughts. What was the Legion's nickname again? The Emperor's Dogs? Or the Emperor's Sword? Is there an even worse nickname? Ingrid asked the Legion, "What do you plan to do with us?" Hearing these words, he replied, "What other fate awaits the royal family of a fallen kingdom?" Ingrid's father stammered, "Please, spare us. I'm willing to offer you everything." Lu, Ro, and I covered her mouth, chuckling softly. A fallen kingdom has nothing to offer. Suddenly, the Legion noticed something else. He walked towards Lu, Ro, and I, causing a flicker of panic within her. Why is he coming over here? Standing before her, the Legion barked. Ew. Lu Ro and I jumped, startled. Me? I really haven't done anything. At that moment, the eldest princess stepped forward, shielding Lu Ro and I with her own body. She demanded, "What do you intend to do to her? She's a member of the royal family, too. Let her go." Lu Ro and I was stunned. "Thank you for helping me. This older sister doesn't even know my name." The Legion replied, "What business is it of yours what I do to her? She's still young. Let me take her place." He seemed surprised, momentarily stunned. The scene unfolding before her made Lu Ro and I exclaim, "How ungrateful!" Kneeling before the Legion, just like in a novel she read. Yes, this is it. The moment the Duke showed concern for Ingrid, in other words, right now, marked the beginning of the second male lead's romantic and tragic love story. The atmosphere grew awkward. Lu Ro and I, still kneeling, gave the Legion a thumbs up. Quickly realizing her mistake, she retracted her hand and giggled nervously. He witnessed this and asked, "That hand gesture, it looks strange. What does it mean?" She lowered her head and replied, "It means the Duke is the best." Enough with the hand. His words confused Lu Ro and I once more. "Don't you understand? What are you still holding?" "Give it to me," he asked, frowning. The Legion turned to Lu Ro and I. "Just by looking at you, I can tell. What are you still holding?" "Give it to me," she replied, her voice tinged with a whine. "I'm not holding anything. It's just a burn mark on my hand. I was just scratching it because it was itchy. Just itchy." The Legion wasn't about to let it go. "I don't understand what you're saying at all. Search her." 5 soldiers stood before the delicate Lu Ro and I and began to search her. Lu Ro and I, in this moment, innocently joked, "It tickles." After searching for a moment, a soldier reported to the Legion, "Found it, sir." He held a small food bar in his hand. Seeing this, he demanded, "What is this?" Lu Ro and I avoided his gaze. "If I tell you, I might die." The guards then surrounded and seized her. "Is it a weapon or poison? Tell us quickly." Cornered, she replied, "Wait, it's not a weapon. My hand hurts. I'm dying. It must be poison." "I told you it's not poison." The chaotic scene began to escalate. No one noticed the sword being drawn. The sound of the unsheathing blade caught her attention. The Legion, standing before her, raised his sword menacingly. "If you tell the truth, I'll let you die a little more peacefully." Lu Ro and I, seeing her reflection in the blade, thought, "Just as I expected, I'll die differently. The only difference is whether it will hurt more or slightly less." She lowered her head and said, "It's sausage." It was the first time a Legion had heard this strange word, so he was a bit confused. "Sausage? What nonsense are you talking about?" Lu Ro and I clutched her skirt, muttering under her breath. Why doesn't he understand? The Legion asked again, "I can't hear what you're saying. Can you speak up?" "It's cheese sausage," she shouted to the surrounding crowd. Everyone who heard the name, from the soldiers to the young ladies, seemed astonished, their jaws dropping in disbelief. Lu Roni's expression was a picture of awkwardness, while the Legion Duke remained silent, his face an impassive mask. Then, his hand resting lightly on the hilt of his sword, he asked, "Did I miss here?" Receiving no reply, the Legion Duke's voice rose. "I asked if I misheard." His aide, ever quick to smooth ruffled feathers, hastily interjected. "She said it was a cheese sausage, Your Grace." "It's called a cheese sausage." As for Lu Ro and I, she was desperately searching for an escape route from this precarious situation. Hiding behind the eldest princess of Ingred, she squeaked, "Yes, it's a cheese sausage. I made it myself." Upon grasping the situation, the entire royal family was dumbfounded. The red-haired princess, her brow furrowed in confusion, muttered, "She snuck a cheese sausage in this situation?" The eldest princess, ever the protector, stepped in once more. Although she was abandoned as a child, she's a good person. From behind her, Lu Ro and I mumbled under her breath, "I won't tell that you had some too." In the next moment, Lu Ro and I, with a surprising burst of boldness, stepped towards the Legion Duke. Holding out the cheese sausage, she said, "I would like to offer this to Your Grace, if this sausage suits Your Grace's taste." The Legion Duke's next action was even more astonishing. He reached out, and in full view of his guards, took the sausage. His 2 aides immediately tried to stop him. "Your Grace, you can't. It could be poisoned." "Your Grace." Ignoring their warnings, the Legion Duke brought the sausage to his lips and took a bite. Lu Roni's heart leaped with a flicker of hope. This is how I escaped this mess. Reality, however, proved to be a cruel mistress. Lu Ro and I found herself one step closer to a dungeon cell. Standing before the bars, she stared blankly at everyone. Was it not tasty? Or did the cheese not suit Your Grace's palate, but the combination of sausage and cheese? She mused, turning to her escort with a question. Are you new here? Did you know the wonderful combination of sausage and cheese when I was being dragged here? He replied, is that seriously what you're thinking about right now? I can answer your question, but everyone else has already been executed by the Duke's orders. The words hit Lu Ro and I like a physical blow, crushing her spirit. Numb with the horrific news, unwilling to accept the reality, she gripped the dungeon bars tightly. I'm sure I'll be killed just like them. After all, in the novel, Lu Ro-Ni's character disappeared after the kingdom's fall. So I'm waiting for my death to come. I've already prepared myself mentally. I never thought I'd die just because of the words cheese sausage. In the gloom of the dungeon, she chewed on her fingernails, lost in thought. Will that angry Duke keep his promise and kill me gently? What if he found me amusing because of the cheese sausage? Her mind drifted to the past, on the day she was about to bid farewell to this world. Will they keep me locked up here? I lived abandoned, and I will die here abandoned. Consumed by anxiety, Lu Ro and I sat blankly on the floor of the dark dungeon. Just then, footsteps echoed, the Legion Duke coming to see her. He called out, "Hey!" Lu Ro and I looked up at him. A sudden thought struck her. "Hey, what are you talking about? Are you still pretending? The sausage you made." Lu Ro and I remained silent, waiting for him to continue. I found it delicious. The witch's curse has been passed down for generations, and he's been disgusted by any food. Lu Ro-Ni's head began to spin. Curse? She immediately poked her head out. Wait, you can't keep me locked up here anymore. Because it was disgusting? The Legion Duke replied. And because you heard what I said. He turned to another person and gave an order. In the next second, a chest of torture devices was brought forth. Picking up a pair of iron tongs, he said, because of the witch's curse, I lost my sense of taste, but I actually tasted something because of the sausage you made. Lu Ro-Ni's face began to drain of color. The look in his eyes was terrifying, his voice laced with a dangerous edge. So I have to check if you are a witch. In the horrifying scene of the dungeon, the Legion Duke interrogated Lu Ro and I. Since you said you made it, and I could taste it, that means you are the witch. Lu Ro and I was stunned by his baseless reasoning. The sight of the iron tongs sparked a surge of fear in Lu Ro and I. What has he mistaken this for? She wondered, then recalled the novel. Wait, come to think of it, something like this happened in the book. The Legion Duke's ancestor had been cursed by a witch, robbed of his sense of taste, forever condemning him to food that tasted like ash. Though the witch had vanished, the Duke's relentless pursuit, his burning hatred, had never ceased. No, but I'm just a side character. Lu Ro and I cried out. Wait, you're just a princess of a fallen kingdom, but you're certainly not a witch. I'm not a witch, the Legion Duke retorted. Of course you would deny it, but you'll confess soon enough. The iron tongs edged closer to her cell, the dungeon door creaking open. Trapped like a cornered animal, Lu Ro and I could only retreat, inching backward until her back pressed against the cold stone wall. My plan was just to eat delicious food and die happy. Why am I being tortured? This isn't right. The tongs were raised slowly. What can I do to get through this? The only way to stop this crazy Duke. Lu Ro and I stared directly into his eyes, expecting some dramatic plan to form. She instead surprised herself by dropping her head in a plea. Yes, Lu Ro and I admitted reluctantly. I'm a witch. Left with no other option, she confessed. The words seemed to momentarily confuse the Legion Duke. She pressed on, but I'm only an apprentice witch, so I can't break the curse. Look, the Legion Duke watched as Lu Ro and I rolled up her sleeve, revealing a mark on her upper left arm. This is a witch's mark, she declared. Inwardly, she thought. The truth is, I accidentally burned myself while cooking, and that's how I got this mark. The Legion Duke stared intently at the mark. So you used magic on that jerky? He questioned. Yes, that's right. But honestly, I didn't need magic. I air-dried the beef in the kingdom's fresh air and environment. And I even added a secret ingredient, she explained with feigned confidence. The Legion Duke furrowed his brow. Did you put bugs in it? Why would I add that? I told you the truth. A palpable awkwardness settled on Lu Ro-Ni's face. You won't torture me anymore, right? She asked softly. The Legion Duke and his aide exchanged puzzled glances, looking at the princess before them. He thought, this princess, the jerky? I did taste it, and it was actually quite delicious. Although she's not a fully fledged witch, she's still an apprentice. The iron tongs opened, then were put away. All right, cease the interrogation, he ordered his aide. Lu Ro and I looked at him in bewilderment. The Legion Duke continued. The cell that had held Lu Ro and I now stood desolate, its gate flung open. The next morning, within the palace walls, Lu Ro and I was led outside, personally escorted by the Legion Duke. She marveled at the sight. It's real. She cheered internally. I thought I'd never see the sky again. The aide, arms crossed, stood by and asked, "When will you start cooking?" As if on cue, Lu Ro and I moved towards the kitchen, her steps robotic. "I'll get right to it." The freshest ingredients had already been prepared. Fruits, vegetables, even red meat had been brought in. Seeing this, a knot of worry remained in her stomach, for her life hung precariously in the balance. Yes, the events of last night in the dungeon flashed through her mind. By the time the sun rises tomorrow, the Legion Duke had said, "Try cooking." Yes, she hadn't quite understood. "If I find it delicious," the Legion Duke had replied, "I'll spare your life." Holding a head of cabbage in her hands, a plan began to form in Lu Roni's mind. Glancing back, as expected, the aide was still watching her every move. The finest ingredients, something I always dreamed of while living in that dilapidated palace. Lu Ro and I mused. Have I ever seen ingredients like these since coming to this world? Tying on her apron, she set to work. "All right, let's give these ingredients a try. Even if this is my last meal, I'll make something he won't regret." Lu Ro and I began preparing the ingredients. Her hands moved with a practiced grace, slicing the scallions into precise sections with an almost professional air. A moment later, she added the entire bundle to the simmering broth. Next came the bean sprouts, tossed into the pot with a delicate flick of the wrist. The Legion Duke's aide watched from a distance, his gaze fixed on her every move, captivated perhaps by the quiet confidence in her preparations. "Remarkable ingredients she uses," he commented, as Lu Ro and I stirred the bubbling concoction, coaxing the flavors to meld and deepen. In a matter of minutes, a tantalizing aroma filled the air, signaling the completion of her culinary creation. Quickly, she covered the pot with a lid. "Can't let it get cold," she murmured. With the dish prepared, she placed it carefully on a serving cart and turned towards the Legion Duke's chambers. Understanding her intent, the aide gestured. "This way." Together, they navigated the long corridor, the rhythmic click of the cart wheels echoing against the stone walls. Suddenly, Lu Ro and I paused, inhaling deeply. A pang of regret washed over her as she considered the meal she was about to serve, a meal she herself would likely never taste. In a blink, they arrived at the Duke's door, guarded by two stern-faced soldiers. The doors swung open, revealing the daunting path that lay before her. A culinary judgment that would determine her fate, a choice between continued service and death. The sight that greeted her within was unexpected. The Legion Duke was slumped over the table, asleep, perhaps having waited impatiently for the promised meal. The sound of the opening doors roused him. His expression, upon waking, was still fearsome. "Don't worry," Lu Ro and I reassured herself. "The food is here." With a steady hand, she pushed the cart towards him. Her hand hovered over the lid, poised to unveil her creation. Mustering a confident smile, she declared, "I have the utmost faith in this dish. It simply cannot be anything but delicious." Finally, the lid was lifted, releasing a fragrant plume of steam that curled invitingly towards the Duke. His eyes focused on the dish before him. A flicker of curiosity crossed his features. "What is this?" Within the pot, nestled amongst layers of neatly arranged cabbage leaves, lay a rich stew of meat, studded with mushrooms and vibrant carrots. Hesitating for a moment, Lu Ro and I considered her response. "This dish is called thousand-layer cabbage rolls. I used to enjoy it quite a lot in my..." She began, before trailing off. "I see," the Duke interrupted. "I can't say that," she thought quickly, amending her statement. "It's a dish of my own creation." The Legion Duke remained wary. "You seem very confident. How can I trust a dish of unknown origin from someone whose life hangs in the balance?" A wave of disappointment washed over Lu Ro and I. "Honestly," she thought dejectedly, "you'll just have to taste it and see." Maintaining a cheerful facade despite her inner turmoil, she offered instructions on how to best enjoy the meal. "Dip the meat and vegetables in the sauce," she suggested. Still suspicious, the Duke, ever cautious, insisted she try it first. "You eat it first." "All right," Lu Ro and I agreed, picking up her chopsticks. "Does he think it's poisoned?" she wondered. "I can't treat good food like this." Carefully, she selected a morsel of meat wrapped in cabbage and dipped it into the specially prepared chili sauce. With the preparations complete, she slowly brought the cabbage roll to her lips, opening her mouth wide to receive the savory bundle. As expected, the taste of her own cooking was exquisite. The fresh ingredients and rich flavors melted on her tongue, bringing a visible expression expression of satisfaction to her face. She savored every bite. The Legion Duke watched her enjoy the meal, a flicker of something akin to awkwardness in his gaze. His attention was drawn to the utensils she was using. "Were those you're holding?" he inquired. Lu Ro and I looked at him, puzzled. "These are wooden eating utensils," she explained with a sigh, remembering the discomfort of meals without them. "It's truly unpleasant to eat Korean food without chopsticks, so I made these with my nanny." The Duke's suspicion seemed to lessen slightly. "It appears there's no poison," he conceded, picking up his own utensils. "Or perhaps the poison is slow-acting. We'll wait a while longer," he added, causing Lu Ro and I to startle. "What?" Lu Ro and I slammed her hand on the table in protest. "No, if the dish gets cold, it won't be as delicious. It's best eaten right after it's made." This assertive attitude surprised the Legion Duke. Watching her, he pondered. "I don't know if she's a witch or not, but she's certainly unique. Yet, somehow, I don't think she's lying." He then picked up a fork and began to partake of the delicacy before him. A roll of meat and vegetables was conveyed to his lips. The Legion Duke chewed slowly, unable to fully relinquish his suspicion, and then swallowed. Lu Ro and I stood tensely by, watching him. The fork was placed back on the plate. The Duke's expression shifted. "You dare serve me this?" Sitting in the room, savoring the food Lu Ro and I had prepared with her own hands, the Duke's demeanor began to soften. The perfectly sweetened cabbage, the high-quality, tender beef, and the chili sauce that elevated the flavors. It all combined to elicit a simple, heartfelt, delicious. Seeing his reaction, Lu Ro and I ventured. "It is good, isn't it?" The Duke didn't respond immediately, remaining silent for a moment. Just as she began to think she hadn't managed to please him, Lu Ro and I received unexpected praise. Not bad. The simple compliment filled her with elation. Lu Ro and I began to extol the virtues of her creation. It would be even more delicious if it were cooked with something like pasta noodles, though a bit thicker. Boiling it with the remaining sauce creates a heavenly flavor. Suddenly, the Duke slammed his hand on the table and stood up. He glared down at her. "His Majesty promised me, when he brought me here, that after the kingdom's destruction, he would give me anything I desired. I could take one person according to my request. I didn't intend to take anything from this small kingdom." He then began to walk towards Lu Ro and I. Confused by this action, she clasped her hands together, a flicker of unease in her eyes. Standing before her, the Legion Duke tilted his head. "But now I've changed my mind." She froze, utterly bewildered. Why is this happening? Why is the plot twisting like this? The door stood slightly ajar, framing the two figures facing each other. Lu Ro Ni's sudden closure of her eyes puzzled the Duke. "What is this?" he thought. Just then, Lu Ro and I blurted out, "Wait, if you're saying that, then let me know what will happen to me." Her question held a note of naivete. The Duke replied, "I will confine you until the work here is finished, and then take you back to the kingdom." Lu Ro Ni's head began to swim. "So I have to continue this precarious existence, preparing meals for him every day?" she muttered under her breath. Lu Ro and I posed another question. "But rather than choosing me, why not the blonde princess? Don't you like her?" She offered another suggestion. "Then, how about the red-haired princess with the captivating looks?" "I don't think so." The fact that neither princess had caught the Duke's eye only intensified Lu Ro Ni's headache. "No, you have to think this through carefully." He leaned closer, his face inches from hers. "Do you have any objections to my decision now?" Lu Ro and I immediately shook her head in denial, the movement bringing them even closer. "Take her away," the Duke commanded. "Confine her to a room until further notice." The next moment, Lu Ro and I was being dragged away by the Duke's aide. Her attempts at resistance were futile. Wait a minute. Alone in the center of the palace kitchen, Lu Ro and I stood lost in thought, replaying the Duke's words in her mind. "She's mine," she sighed, taking a deep breath. "My head still hurts." A frying pan was placed on the stove. Lu Ro and I channeled her nervous energy into cooking. "Understand." With practiced ease, she chopped onions, carrots, and bell peppers, sprinkling them with a pinch of salt. A fried egg was added to the pan, and then everything was stir-fried together over high heat. "I need to fill my stomach first, and then think this through." A single pot of rice hardly did justice to her appetite. It was more like an entire cauldron of fried rice. Lu Ro and I declared with satisfaction, "Delicious." The aide asked, "What are you doing?" "Making it even more delicious." she replied. He looked at her skeptically. It looks like a witch's spell. Lu Ro and I thought incredulously. This man also believes I'm a witch? How naive can he be? Aloud, she said. You can think of it that way. So, would the knight like to try some? At this invitation, the aide asked with a puzzled expression, me? He looked at the 2 rice balls Lu Ro and I had just shaped, hesitated for a moment, then reached towards the rice pot. The aide began his first attempt at shaping a rice ball, muttering to himself, delicious. Lu Ro and I struggled to suppress a smile. Are you done? Let me see. His rice ball resembled a hand grenade. She offered a gentle consolation. Good. It's charmingly rustic. Watch me. She chopped the cooked vegetables and eggs, mixed them with the seasoned rice in a small bowl, and then expertly molded the mixture into a ball. After these practice steps, the result was a rice ball bigger than his head. He, however, praised it. Lu Ro and I said, try again. I'll check later. With hands that big, you should be able to make one even bigger than mine. Seeing her apparent naivete, he thought, perhaps she isn't a bad witch after all. A different kind of feeling began to bloom in the aide's heart. Why do I feel like Her Highness is staring at me? Between the 2 of them, a veritable tower of rice balls was constructed. Lu Ro and I picked one up. Thanks for the meal. Taking the first bite, a look of pure bliss spread across her face. The rice is wonderful, and the sweetness of the vegetables with the subtle salt is divine. She turned to the aide. Sir Knight, you should have some too. He hesitated, however. The allure of the rice ball proved too strong, and he quickly took a bite. The aide's eyes widened, as if a new world had opened up to him. It's delicious, he praised, and so comforting. Lu Ro and I replied, I know, right? In a gesture of surprising generosity, she wrapped up the remaining rice balls and handed them to him. Give these to the other knights during your break. The aide asked, are you going to eat all that rice yourself? She doodled on the bag as she replied, I was planning on giving some to my nanny and having some myself too. He was once again taken aback. He averted his gaze. I really don't think that's necessary. What? Lu Ro and I asked again. A short while later, the 2 stood before the door of a secluded room. A palpable sense of foreboding emanated from the room, putting her on edge. That's right. They said they'd separate the royals and the servants. But how will they treat me in front of His Highness? They'll definitely treat me like a servant. Why is it okay when they treat me like a servant while I'm staying in the abandoned palace? But if I become a pushover, the more she thought about it, the more uneasy she became. She looked pleadingly at the aide. Can I not go in? He shook his head, refusing. You cannot disobey His Highness's orders. Clearly, Lu Ro and I had no choice. She was compelled to enter, despite her reluctance. Right? Her hand tightened around the doorknob. Even though I survived the Mad Duke, now, even if I'm treated like a servant or a pushover, I'll endure it. God, please help me. With that thought, she abruptly pushed the door open. Dusk had fallen, and the Legion's night guard was still utterly bewildered. At a time like this, the royal family's dignity in front of rice balls is truly insignificant. They pounce on them like stray dogs. Hearing a shout, he abruptly turned around. Ron! The speaker was none other than Henry, who approached and asked enthusiastically, What are you doing? Ron replied with a smile, My shift is over, so I'm taking a break. Upon hearing this, Henry complained, Me too, and I'm starving. Ron suddenly asked curiously, I wonder if you'd like this. Then he pulled out a bag of rice balls decorated with comical smiley faces. Henry, surprised, asked, What are those? The reply came, These are rice balls made by the princess living in the abandoned palace. He reached out and touched a rice ball, praising, Made by the princess? They smell wonderful. The Legion Duke suddenly appeared from seemingly nowhere, causing Henry's face to drain of color. Both men immediately and simultaneously blurted out, Yes, Your Excellency. He demanded furiously, What did you just say? Ron immediately answered, These are rice balls made by the princess living in the abandoned palace. This information surprised the Legion Duke, and he thought to himself, What a bold princess. By now, the basket of rice balls was empty, discarded on the cold floor. Lu Ro and I could only watch helplessly as everyone bickered back and forth. I grabbed it first, but you touched it first. She was regretting her helplessness when she heard a call, Hey, accompanied by a gentle hand and the calling voice. Ingrid was gently coaxing her. Sit here, the courtyard is cold. Lu Ro and I obediently followed, murmuring, Thank you, sister. Then, glancing admiringly, she thought, as expected of the heroine, even locked up, without food or bath, she still maintains her elegant and beautiful appearance. She was searching, thinking happily, Anyway, I'm glad I still have one left. I'll save it for tomorrow. Then, suddenly seeing Ingrid's expectant gaze, Lu Ro and I tried to hide it, but failed. She called out blankly, "Sister Ingrid?" Ingrid habitually opened her mouth expectantly, then shyly explained, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean anything. I don't want, so you eat it." Lu Ro and I suddenly remembered. Right, while everyone was scrambling for the rice balls, Sister Ingrid just sat there alone. She must be hungry too. She looks like a doll, but she's still human. She'll starve if she doesn't eat. Finally, she decided to call out, "Sister Ingrid, please take it and eat." Seeing her confused reaction, "But this is yours." Lu Ro and I quickly reassured her. "I ate a lot before I came. Take it." Gratitude filled Ingrid's eyes. In response, how about this?" She then divided the rice ball into 2 equal halves, gently continuing, "This much is enough. Thank you for sharing your food with me." Lu Ro and I was once again captivated by this gesture. Sister Ingrid's soul and appearance are both so beautiful. No wonder the Emperor and the Imperial Duke have both been stolen away by her. The 2 princesses who had been scrambling for food stopped upon noticing the Legion Duke. He was walking towards Ingrid and Lu Ro and I. To their surprise, his eyes fiercely fixed on them, and he barked, "You!" Lu Ro and I, not understanding what was happening, curiously asked back, "Me?" At this point, she was truly panicked. What is it? What's going on?" The 2 sisters began holding hands, comforting each other. The Legion Duke's gaze was fierce as he coldly commanded, "Come with me." Lu Roni's heart was still uneasy. "I thought he ordered me to stay here before. Regardless, if he tells me to go, I have to go." An arm suddenly shot out, blocking Lu Roni's path. It was none other than Ingrid, who sternly asked, "What is this rude behavior? I won't let her be at your mercy like yesterday. Please don't bother my sister anymore." The Legion Duke smirked. "You don't really think you can stop me, do you?" His subordinate quickly obeyed the unspoken command, walking towards Lu Ro and I, and then abruptly grabbing her arm, forcibly pulling her away. Unexpectedly, the Legion Duke spoke up, correcting, "Not her, the other one." The subordinate continued to obey, quickly grabbing Ingrid's hand and pulling her away. At this point, Lu Ro and I could only helplessly cry out, "Sister." Seeing this, the Legion Duke calmly continued, "Now that there are no interruptions, take me to the kitchen immediately." Lu Ro and I tentatively asked, "What dish would you like me to prepare?" He replied without hesitation, "The dish you made for my guards." She asked for confirmation, "You mean the rice balls?" He immediately affirmed, "Yes." Lu Ro and I breathed a sigh of relief, realizing, so this is why he barged into the room and even imprisoned my sister, just to make me cook this late at night. She murmured, "It's quite late already." The Legion Duke retorted impatiently, "You don't want to make them?" He then glared fiercely at her, causing Lu Ro and I to quickly agree. "Of course not. I'm a late-night cooking expert." After observing her silently for a moment, he continued to command, "From now on, agree to cook only for me." He then quickly straightened up, moved closer to her, and demanded, "Not even for my subordinates or your sister. I don't like sharing what belongs to me." Lu Ro and I looked at him, flustered. "Well, all right, but the vegetables are going to burn." The Legion Duke, slightly flustered himself, instructed, "I just wanted to make sure you understood clearly." Lu Ro and I regained her composure. "Goodness, why did you have to get so close?" The stir-frying stage was complete, and she busied herself with the next steps. The Legion Duke, curious, watched from the side. After tasting the incredibly delicious rice balls Lu Ro and I made, she was surprised and was about to warn, "Your Highness," when he interrupted her. "Chew slowly and savor, right?" "I'm chewing." But Lu Ro and I couldn't help but think, eating that fast, how can you possibly chew and swallow properly? After devouring a considerable number of rice balls, the Legion Duke finally sighed in satisfaction and declared, "I'm full." Lu Ro and I nodded wearily, thinking, after eating 6 rice balls at this hour, of course you're full. Then, when she heard him say, "Let's go back," her face brightened. She hurriedly bid him farewell, saying, "Then I'll return to my room." Unexpectedly, he declared, "No, you're coming to my room." His words stunned her into silence. Then she boldly asked again, "Which room?" The Legion Duke said impatiently, "Didn't you hear me? Come to my room." Lu Ro and I could only smile and comply. All right, to the Duke's room. But she wondered to herself, why do I have to go there? She was surprised to hear the Legion Duke's explanation. "I know you can't escape on your own, but I think it's best to keep you within my sight." Lu Ro and I almost laughed. Oh my, how could I possibly escape? But if it's the Duke's room, there might be 2 rooms, that's what I thought. But I didn't expect. If I had known this, I would have rather served as a maid for the princesses. Seeing the Legion Duke confidently changing clothes in front of her, she bashfully turned away. Why is he? Does the Duke only have one bedroom? The shimmering light illuminated the Legion Duke's entire room. So even though it was night, Lu Ro and I still felt shy at the sight before her. The Legion Duke placed his hands on his shirt and gently pulled it off, revealing his well-defined physique. But suddenly, a scream pierced the air, startling the Legion Duke, who turned to look at Lu Ro and I. At that moment, Lu Ro and I covered her face shyly, bashfully staring at the Legion Duke. Lu Ro and I stammered, "I'm sorry, I'll look away. I was just surprised that you suddenly took off your clothes." Then, under the Legion Duke's murderous gaze, she awkwardly turned her face away. Blushing, Lu Ro and I thought to herself, I would have preferred the princess's room. Time passed, but the atmosphere in the room remained quiet. Lu Ro and I stealthily glanced at the Legion Duke, thinking, after all, he really does have a good physique. It was just hidden by his clothes, so I didn't notice. As if sensing her furtive gaze, the Legion Duke glanced coldly at Lu Ro and I. Under the Legion Duke's murderous gaze, Lu Ro and I anxiously turned away. I didn't notice, but sensing her secretive stare, Legion unemotionally. She thought to herself, what does he usually eat that's made him so thin? Is it true that he can't taste anything except the food I make? Suddenly, the Legion Duke's icy voice cut through her thoughts. What are you thinking about? Startled by his voice, Lu Ro and I snapped out of her reverie and stammered. Are you changed? The Legion Duke, seated on the sofa, replied, yes. The Duke's figure against the backdrop of the elegant room was like a painting. Lu Ro and I, captivated by the scene, couldn't help but think, he's quite handsome without that frightening armor. Truly a beautiful man. Suddenly, the Legion Duke gripped his sword tightly, and a terrifying aura emanated from him. Frightened, Lu Ro and I quickly revised her opinion. His mood swings are still terrifying. But, remembering her helplessness in his presence, she thought, but, are you just going to sleep like that? Holding your sword, eyes closed, you can't sleep well like that, can you? The Legion Duke replied calmly, I never sleep well at night anyway. Even if I do fall asleep, the curse makes it restless. The curse, Lu Ro and I responded somberly. Does it really make you unable to taste food? The Legion Duke replied coldly. Now the witch is asking me about the curse. Hearing his chilling tone, Lu Ro and I stammered in alarm. Curses aren't my specialty, so I don't know much about them. At this, the Duke loosened his grip on his sword and pondered silently for a moment. He said, I can feel it. Lu Ro and I asked, surprised, feel what? The Legion Duke answered coldly. What people call taste in my mouth. Chewing feels like grinding sand, and broth tastes like sewage. As he spoke, the Duke grew increasingly agitated, his jaw clenching and his hand tightening around his sword once more. Suddenly, he spoke softly, but only the food you make allows me to truly taste. I enjoyed the meal just now, because I can never enjoy a proper meal otherwise. His tone shifting to one of menace. The Legion Duke revealed half of his gleaming sword. Why do you keep asking about this? Are you planning some trickery while I sleep? Hearing his accusation, Lu Ro and I stammered, No, I was just curious. I'll go to sleep now. She pulled the blanket up, turning her face to the wall. Seeing this, the Legion Duke withdrew his murderous aura and sheathed his sword. The moon slowly rose, and the light from outside filtered into the room. Lying alone on the sofa, Lu Ro and I thought, it's so quiet. When the palace was seized, I thought my life would end by beheading or imprisonment. But in the end, I wasn't beheaded, nor did I starve to death. I'm not lying on the hard floor of a prison cell, but on a warm blanket. Even if it's a sofa, it's all because of the Duke's unexpected actions. But then she remembered his words. Come cook for me. Sleep in my room. She continued to think, if I'm the only one who can make delicious food for the cursed Duke, then I won't have to give up this place. If possible, she slowly drifted off to sleep. I wonder how Ingrid and the nanny are doing. Nanny! Nanny! Someone shouted, running towards her. Where did you go? Lu Ro and I happily embraced her nanny, saying, Seeing her like this, the nanny asked softly, Princess? Lu Ro and I looked at her nanny, her voice choked with tears. I had a nightmare. A dark Duke called me a witch and made me cook. The nanny said kindly, You had a strange dream, didn't you? Lu Ro and I clung to her, tears streaming down her face. Yes, she continued. I'm so glad it was just a dream. I was really scared. Oh, but why is it Nanny? Lu Ro and I slowly opened her eyes, thinking vaguely. Muscular, isn't it? As she spoke, she unconsciously reached out, her hand exploring a firm body. Suddenly, A voice startled her awake. "Wake up!" Hearing it, she froze. Luro and I found herself nestled against the Legion Duke. He looked down at her and continued, which, hearing the familiar way he spoke, she looked up at him in fear. After waking her, the Legion Duke sneered. "You've got some nerve, talking all righteous," then slowly crawling into bed, clinging to my chest. He recalled how she'd leaned against him for a long time without reacting. Lu Roni's face flushed crimson as she heard these words, bewildered by how she could have burrowed into a man's embrace like that. "Why didn't you kick me off?" she asked. The Legion Duke replied calmly, a hint of sarcasm lacing his tone. "Because I'm a knight. I can't kick a lady." Inwardly, Lu Roni screamed, "Liar! You were just tormenting me." He reached for his sword. His words were soft, yet delivered with an undercurrent that sent a chill down her spine. "Are you prepared to pay the price for touching me?" Lu Roni froze, a sense of foreboding washing over her. She cowered, shrinking back from the Legion Duke, her voice trembling with fear. "I'm so sorry. How should I atone?" The Duke frowned, his voice sharp. "Do I have to think for you too?" Lu Roni quickly waved her hands. "No, I'll do it myself." He sheathed his sword, placing it aside, then turned, his words hinting at forgiveness. "Well, now I'm hungry." Upon receiving the request, Lu Roni scrambled out of bed, leaping to her feet, terrified that the Duke would change his mind and she'd be doomed. She slammed the fresh red meat onto the table, taking her frustration out on the innocent cut. Recalling his words, Lu Roni couldn't help but curse her own foolishness. Over and over again, as she chopped the meat, her thoughts raced, her face pale. Did my body not sense the danger? How could I sleep so soundly in that situation? No, if the Duke hadn't let me sleep in the same room in the first place. The knife nearly slipped and sliced her hand, jolting her back to the present. Lu Roni reassured herself. "Stay calm, focus. If I don't make this meal properly," the image of sharp knife piercing the wall flashed through her mind, making her shudder. "Maybe he'll cut off something other than my fingers." Returning to her cooking, Lu Roni recited the recipe. Minced beef and pork. Pour milk into the mixture of torn bread. Various seasonings. Season with tomato paste, chopped onions, and cheese. With the preparations complete, Lu Roni happily placed the baking dish into the oven. While waiting for the dish to bake, she could make the vegetable potato salad. She placed a hand on her head, wondering if she was missing any ingredients. Remembering that the soup needed butter and onions, Lu Roni reached for an onion. The gatekeeper's voice startled her. "Excuse me, how much longer?" Lu Roni was about to say, "The soup isn't." Before she could finish, the man began to threaten. Just like that, the Duke has already started sharpening his sword. Terrified by these words, Lu Roni blurted out, "I'll be right there." Pushing the food trolley down the hallway, Lu Roni thought, "Asterisk, can I skip the soup? Then again, if I make him wait too long, he'll be even more furious." Asterisk, the thought sent a shiver down her spine. Finally, she arrived. The door slowly opened, revealing the Legion Duke, already dressed and waiting. When he's not doing things, he's actually quite handsome. His appearance stunned Lu Roni. The Legion Duke said coldly, "Here." She then pushed the trolley over. Lu Roni hurriedly spread the tablecloth, expertly serving the dishes, not forgetting to introduce the meal. "I made shepherd pie this time." A table of fragrant food was laid out before him. Lu Roni added, "You can have it with a potato salad, too." The Legion Duke requested another plate. She quickly grabbed one and handed it to him. He took the plate and told her sit. Lu Roni, thinking she'd misheard, remained standing. The Legion Duke then asked, "Are you refusing me?" Astonished, she walked over to the chair in front of her, pulled it out, and said, "I'll sit here." The Legion Duke slowly brought the food to his mouth. Lu Roni wrestled with her inner turmoil. Why has this suddenly turned into a shared meal? It feels like we're sitting 10 meters apart. She pondered, why did he make me sit with him? Is it like last time, to check for poison? But he's already eating, and he seems to be enjoying it. Seeing that Lu Roni hadn't touched her plate, the Legion Duke had to speak. "Aren't you going to eat?" Startled back to reality, she quickly replied, I am. She picked up a piece of meat and placed it on her plate, unsure of what the Duke was thinking. Lu Roni told herself, "Even if my head rolls tomorrow, as a food lover, I'm going to eat this first." Looking at the delicious beef glistening with sauce, she couldn't help but marvel. Lu Roni put the food in her mouth, feeling the meat melt on her tongue. The sensation was soft, like warm bread. The rich, savory tomato sauce permeated every corner of the meat. She felt a dizzying rush of pleasure, completely immersed in a world of bliss. bliss, everything blending together perfectly. After savoring the taste of the meat, Lu Ro and I scooped a large spoonful of potato salad and put it directly into her mouth, chewing heartily. This will lighten the mood, she thought. Then she looked at the Legion Duke, who had his head down, seemingly preoccupied. Both dishes are delicious. I wonder if the Duke can even taste them. She glanced down at her own plate. It was already empty. Lu Ro and I was shocked. When did he finish eating? I made enough for 5 people to eat for a long time. The Legion Duke wiped his mouth, looking satisfied. He replied softly, "While you were eating the potato salad." He added, "You eat quickly." It wasn't so much eating as it was inhaling. Lu Ro and I asked for his opinion. "So, how was the food today?" The Legion Duke didn't elaborate, simply deeming it worth eating. Seeing the Duke's comfortable expression, Lu Ro and I was pleased. "So he's satisfied? That's good." His next words doused the flicker of hope that had just sparked within her, and she focused intently. "If I cut off your hands, you won't be able to cook like this. So I will overlook your mistake last night. Could anything be more comforting?" Lu Ro and I quickly bowed her thanks, as if she had seen the sun again. "I'm still alive." Observing her reaction, the Legion Duke said nothing, simply sitting quietly. Lu Ro and I remained bowed, not daring to look up. The Legion Duke broke the silence. "That being said, there's one more thing I need to fix." 2 large hands firmly grasped Lu Ro and I. Panic seized her as she remembered their agreement. "You said you'd forgive me for last night." The Legion Duke moved closer, his gaze piercing hers. Then he turned his face away, seemingly not intending to forgive her so easily. Seeing the Duke's disdainful look, Lu Ro and I was terrified. "I've cooked so many meals for you during this time, but..." His next words stunned her. "Take her away." 2 maids obeyed, dragging her off. Unable to bear it, Lu Ro and I immediately cried out, "Wait, Your Grace." Contrary to her expectations, in another room, Lu Ro and I wasn't taken to be executed. The maids were bathing her in a warm bath scattered with flower petals. Exhausted, Lu Ro and I asked the brunette maid, "Are you planning to drown me in this bathtub?" The girl looked at her in surprise. The girl explained, "I don't know what misunderstanding you have, but His Grace only requested that you be thoroughly cleaned and given a change of clothes." Lu Ro and I was taken aback when a short-haired maid added, "That's right. After all, His Grace isn't the type to harm a girl who spends the night with him." Hearing this, Lu Ro and I recoiled in shock, waving her hands frantically. "This is going to cause a misunderstanding." The brunette maid quickly grabbed Lu Roni's hand, declaring, "And we'll do your nails too." Lu Roni's patience finally snapped. "Is no one listening to me?" she cried. Comparing the Lu Ro and I of before to the Lu Ro and I of now, she had transformed from a grimy servant into a girl as beautiful as a princess. The Legion Duke, observing her refreshed appearance, seemed pleased. Much better now, but he couldn't resist a teasing jab. "Your hands are clean, but overall you still look a bit unkempt." Lu Ro and I inwardly cringed, a silent scream building within her. Is it because I was so dirty that he looked at me like that? She collected her thoughts. This is the first time Lu Ro and I has worn such beautiful clothes. When she was locked away in the abandoned palace, her attire was only slightly better than a maid's. For receiving these things, shouldn't I first say thank you? Lu Ro and I mustered her courage, turning to face the Legion Duke. His handsome face, creased with a frown of discomfort, struck her as odd. Noticing her expression, the Legion Duke leaned closer. "What's wrong?" he asked, causing a flutter of panic within her. Composing herself, Lu Ro and I stammered, "I wanted to say thank you." The Legion Duke raised a hand towards her face, cutting her short. Fearing a blow, she squeezed her eyes shut. He plucked a stray leaf from her hair. "Silly girl," he murmured. As a blush warmed her cheeks, a soldier entered, shattering the strangely intimate moment. He addressed the Legion Duke. "The princess imprisoned in the dungeon wishes to see the Duke." Lu Roni's mind raced. The princess in the dungeon, that's Sister Ingrid. Lu Ro and I stood awkwardly before the cell door, avoiding eye contact. "I don't want to come back here. Why did he drag me along?" The Legion Duke's voice whispered in her ear, "I heard you wanted to see me." Ingrid eyed him warily. "What are your intentions?" she demanded. The Legion Duke seemed momentarily taken aback by her directness. Before he could respond, she pressed on. "I'm asking you why you're keeping me in prison like this." Ingrid's anger flared. After locking me up, you haven't come to see me once. You're trying to isolate me, aren't you? Even if I don't understand the meaning behind this, imprisoning me like this won't break my will. The Legion Duke interrupted. Fine, keep it at then. His curt response surprised both girls. What did you say? Ingrid asked, incredulous. The Legion Duke's impatience was evident. Is that all? What a waste of time. He turned to leave, tossing a parting warning over his shoulder. From now on, just tell the warden. With a clench of her fist, Ingrid's resentment simmered. After the Legion Duke departed, Ingrid turned to Lu Ro and I with a surprising gentleness. Are you all right? Did the Duke try anything funny with you? Lu Ro and I was astonished that, even imprisoned, Ingrid worried about her. No, she replied. I'm fine. More importantly, sister. Before she could finish, the Legion Duke's impatient voice boomed. What are you doing there? Come with me. I'm coming. Lu Ro and I responded quickly, then turned back to Ingrid. Sister, I'm sorry. Please endure a little longer. She hurried after the Duke. Ingrid tried to stop her, but it was too late. Sinking to the floor, Ingrid replayed Lu Roni's words. Endure a little longer. The Legion Duke's voice, sharp with annoyance, cut through the silence. You seem to have forgotten. You don't have the right to move freely. Lu Ro and I quickly apologized. He thrust a lantern into her hands. Hold this, he commanded. Lu Ro and I obediently followed behind him. Glancing back at the cell, then at the gloomy corridor ahead, Lu Ro and I ventured a question. I wonder if they provide food for the imprisoned royals. The Legion Duke's reply was casual. Since they're all going to die anyway, is there a need to feed them? Disturbed by his callousness, Lu Ro and I pressed further. Is there truly no way for them to live? His response remained chillingly indifferent. There's no point, Lu Ro and I stammered, but before she could elaborate, the Legion Duke cut her off, his voice laced with impatience. Stop asking. Why are you always like this? She looked directly at the cold-blooded man, her gaze unwavering. Aren't you hungry? Back in the palace, Lu Ro and I let out a quiet sigh, still troubled by her thoughts. Racking her brain for a delicious dish to compensate for her previous culinary disaster, Lu Ro and I fretted while the Legion Duke seemed perplexed. Why is only that spot so dark? He mused aloud. Meanwhile, Lu Ro and I peppered herself with questions. What's the most delicious thing I can make with the ingredients on hand? There's only enough for one serving. If she wanted to seize this opportunity, a sudden memory of their encounter in the prison surfaced. She had asked the Duke, aren't you hungry? He thought for a moment, then exclaimed, oh, it's lunchtime, so I'm a bit hungry. But why are you asking? Shouldn't you automatically prepare a meal when it's time to eat? Lu Ro and I felt a prickle of annoyance at his words. He's right, she thought. But why am I so irritated? Then, she calmly replied, it's nothing. If this meal is delicious, could you provide food for the maids and the royals? Would that be all right? The Duke's prolonged silence filled her with a twinge of guilt. Was I too hasty in suggesting that? Daring to make a suggestion first, I might end up in prison like my sister. He suddenly asked, why? I'm asking why you're making this suggestion. Like I said before, they're royals from a fallen nation. Not all of them, but most will be punished. Whether it's beheading or starvation, the result is the same. Why should we feed them? Besides, he continued, I heard you were the princess of the abandoned palace. So they abandoned you, didn't they? Flustered by his question, Lu Ro and I stammered. Well, even if I was abandoned in the abandoned palace, and I don't even recognize my father's or my sister's faces, wouldn't anyone be sad if they were hungry? Faced with her naive question, the Duke could only remain silent. Undeterred, she continued, and my point is, even if I die tomorrow, I want to eat a delicious meal today. Oh, it doesn't have to be a lavish meal, as long as there's something to eat while eating. Exasperated by her rambling, the Duke abruptly interrupted her. Stop. I understand, so you can stop now. I'll accept your suggestion. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Lu Ro and I exclaimed, thank you so much, Your Excellency. But you have to make a dish that makes me exclaim, absolutely delicious. Before he could respond, she dashed off, calling back, it's a deal. To herself, she declared with determination, if it's this dish, even the picky Duke will surely praise it. She began the initial preparations. First, cut the cleaned chicken into bite-sized pieces. Soak it in milk to remove the gamey smell. Soak it for a while until the smell is gone. Then add salt, pepper, wine, garlic, and chili peppers for seasoning. Then coat it in a crispy batter. The next step was the most crucial. Heat the oil to a high temperature. In this era, cooking oil is expensive, so I can't use too much at once. As expected, the royal kitchen is different. With everything marinated, Lu Ro and I excitedly moved on to the next stage. Now let's fry it. Meanwhile, the Legion Duke was meticulously reading a letter, carefully composing his reply. The arrangements here are almost complete. I'll be returning to the Empire soon. Once I'm back, I'll sort out which prisoners to bring. As he wrote, Lu Roni's words suddenly came to mind. If this meal is delicious, could you provide food for the maids and the royals? He was immediately puzzled, thinking, why did I say I'd accept that unreasonable request? If those words had come from anyone else, I would have cut out that arrogant tongue long ago. Although that princess's chatter is quite amusing, it's not something to rashly agree to. Just then, the Legion Duke suddenly realized it was because of the food. She was so confident in it that she used it as a bargaining chip. I'm curious to know what kind of food it is. Regardless, I'm the cunning type. I'll eat it and give him nothing. Soon, he heard Lu Roni's voice. Your Excellency, the food is ready. Then she excitedly presented. Today's menu includes fried chicken, potatoes, and beer. We call it chi beer, Lu Ro and I announced. The Legion Duke, intrigued, echoed. Chi beer? Lu Ro and I explained. Yes, fried chicken and beer are a match made in heaven. The chicken, seasoned and fried, becomes incredibly crispy. The Duke's gaze fell upon her newly changed, yet already slightly soiled, clothes, a testament to her efforts in the kitchen. He continued slowly, I don't drink beer. I suppose I could have wine. Undeterred, Lu Ro and I pressed her case. Please, just try it with the chicken while it's still hot. Resigned, the Legion Duke grudgingly agreed, a sullen expression on his face. Fine, just be quiet. A tantalizing piece of chicken was soon placed neatly on his plate, ready for his judgment. Lu Ro and I held her breath, watching his every move. The Duke chewed thoughtfully then, voraciously took a swig of the ice-cold beer. She watched, a question forming in her mind. Why doesn't he say anything? After a refreshing gulp of beer, the Duke suddenly felt transported to a vast, open field. Realizing it was a field of barley, he began to explain. The sounds of labor also caught his attention. The image of farmers diligently harvesting the grain, tying it into large bundles. Furthermore, the process of brewing the delicious beer replayed in the Duke's mind, leaving him stunned, his fork clattering to the table. He then hurriedly looked at Lu Ro and I, uttering a single word. Name? This startled her. I'm asking what it's called. Hearing this, Lu Ro and I breathed a sigh of relief and replied, fried chicken. Unexpectedly, the Duke was asking about something else. No, I mean your name. She was taken aback, causing her to stammer. Name? My name is Lu Ro and I. You know my family name, right? He continued eating, nodding in confirmation. Yes, I'll remember it. News traveled fast. A man remarked in surprise. The Duke seems interested in that abandoned princess. His wife nodded in agreement. Yes, I heard. I heard she's in the bedroom, but still alive. Not only that, I heard she's been constantly on his side. He even imprisoned all the other princesses. Princess Ingred is locked up in the dungeon. He nodded, thinking to himself, this is the most incomprehensible thing. With that face, she captured the Duke's heart. She doesn't look like an abandoned princess at all. A liquor server, overhearing their conversation, slammed his tray down on the table, startling them. This, he then announced. From today onwards, you'll have 2 meals a day. Thank the Duke's benevolence. He muttered under his breath. I thought they'd be locked up and starved to death. Why the sudden change? His wife suddenly recalled the rumors. You've heard the rumors outside too, right? That abandoned princess currying favor with the Duke. Who knows what tricks that little brat used? He pondered. If it's that abandoned princess, she looked proud. That child can be used. Just then, Lu Ro and I suddenly exclaimed with delight. Really? The Legion Duke, frowning, admonished. Don't ask me. Can't you understand at once? She hurriedly replied, I'm sorry. I'm just so happy. Inwardly, Lu Ro and I struggled to contain her joy. I can't believe he actually agreed to provide food for the royals. In the end, he still didn't say it was delicious. I thought this request wouldn't be accepted. Was he just too shy to say a word? This is great. He couldn't resist it anymore. Sister Ingrid, seeing the Duke still devouring the chicken, her conviction grew stronger. It seems he really likes the fried chicken. He even asked me to prepare the same meal for dinner. Noticing Lu Ro and I staring, the Duke roared. Are you dissatisfied? She nearly jumped out her skin. Quickly, she explained, No, that's not it. While fried chicken is delicious, there are other, more unique dishes. Hearing this, the Legion Duke immediately asked, What dish? Lu Ro and I replied cheerfully, Seasoned chicken. At this, he couldn't contain his anticipation. Seasoned? In this situation, shouldn't you be a bit more specific? Yes, soy sauce fried chicken is delicious too. Or making a sauce with spring onions would be just as good. Or what's better than adding cream sauce and onions? Before he could continue his impatient barrage of suggestions, he snapped, "Are you just going to tell me about all these dishes?" Lu Ro and I, startled, quickly pleaded, Don't be angry. I can't make it right away, because I don't have the ingredients." The Legion Duke swiftly offered a solution. "Just tell me the names of the ingredients, and I'll have them found for you." But Lu Ro and I quickly refused. "No, I have to make the seasoning myself, because I've never succeeded here before. I have to try, and there's no budget and no time." He quickly understood and commanded, "Rome." Soon, a bag of money appeared before her. The Legion Duke also thoughtfully instructed, "Lugard will help you with the transport." "Is that enough?" After happily explaining, "More than enough," Lu Ro and I suddenly saw the once perceived cold-blooded Duke in a completely different light, dispelling the thought that he was ill-tempered and cruel. The Legion Duke's voice suddenly turned serious. "You can use it freely, if it's for cooking, but if you use this money for shady things." Hearing this, she immediately declared confidently, "I won't do that. First, I have to go to the kitchen and see what ingredients are left. If anything is missing, I'll use this money to buy it." Then she ran off to carry out her task. Lu Ro and I suddenly stopped, looked at the Duke, and said with a smile, "Legion Duke, I will definitely make you an exceptionally delicious seasoned chicken." This affectionate address surprised him. She called me Legion. At this moment, Lu Ro and I felt incredibly refreshed, practically singing and dancing with the music in her heart. "Well then, I have to make a clear plan first. First, I have to make chili paste, then soybean paste, and soy sauce." At the peak of her excitement, she accidentally bumped into someone walking by. Lu Ro and I felt flustered and apologized profusely. "I'm so sorry. I was just too excited." The person she had just bumped into suddenly grabbed her hand and exclaimed joyfully, "So you're here." Lu Ro and I, the unfamiliar girl, called out again. "So, the person is here." Lu Ro and I immediately asked, "Do you know me?" She quickly received an answer. Of course. How could I not know Lu Ro and I, His Majesty's most cherished little princess? Seeing Lu Ro-Ni's curious gaze, she quickly explained, "Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Layla, His Majesty's handmaiden. I don't have much time, so I'll quickly tell you the important points." Her voice suddenly dropped to a whisper. "His Majesty has a message for Lu Ro and I." Early the next morning, the Legion Duke was about to enjoy his breakfast. He looked attentively at the person across from him. This morning's menu was quite tempting. Grilled ham and cheese sandwiches with poached eggs, tomato and ricotta salad, and yogurt. The Legion Duke couldn't help but think, "She's really strange today, so quiet." With that thought, he spoke aloud, "Look, is this all the food?" Lu Ro and I, lost in thought, suddenly snapped back and replied, "No." I'm gradually getting a grasp of Legion Duke's appetite. His gaze remained fiercely questioning. "That form of address. When did I permit you to address me by my name?" Flustered, she asked as she served him. Then, panic welled up inside her. Was I calling Legion's name? She started looking around, stammering out an explanation. "So, that's why. I was also afraid the Duke would be bored." "Oh, right, you asked for my name, so I thought we were closer. So, I unintentionally changed the way I addressed you." Hearing this, he lowered his voice. "Regardless of the form of address, give me that first." The Legion Duke continued to savor his meal in silence. After he left the room, Lu Ro and I still couldn't shake her thoughts. Unbelievable. That arrogant, ill-tempered man actually overlooked the mistake in my address. Am I dreaming? Normally, he would threaten to rip my tongue out. Yet he didn't. He just asked for more food. So, could it be because of my cooking? Come to think of it, he seems to have softened a bit these past few days. He doesn't seem as irritable when he eats the food I make. Lost in her thoughts, Lu Ro and I was startled by a sudden call. "Lu Ro and I," she responded in a fluster. "Ah, who is it?" Layla whispered. "Don't be alarmed. It's me. Did you use what I gave you?" Lu Ro-Ni's voice suddenly became frantic. About that." Then she heard Lukid's voice from behind her. "Who are you talking to?" The question left her frozen for a long moment. She couldn't help but wonder, how long has Sir Lukid been standing there? Thankfully, Lu Ro and I managed to come up with an explanation just in time. "That's strange. There was a maid here just a moment ago. I stained the Legion Duke's clothes last time, so I was thinking of washing them." His eyes filled with suspicion as he asked again, Really? He quickly softened his tone. I came here for another reason. The Duke said he wants you to make fried chicken for dinner. Luro and I responded cheerfully, yes, I'll prepare it right away. Only when she was alone could she finally breathe a sigh of relief. She quickly slipped it into her sleeve, pulling out a small vial and a note. Put it in the food, she observed it, speculating. This must be poison, right? Just then, a voice startled her. Luro and I, don't close the door. She quickly hid the vial and replied calmly, I'm sorry. It's become a habit. Though she appeared cheerful on the surface, worry gnawed at her, suddenly giving me this. What am I supposed to do? No, if I had a conscience, I couldn't do this. Ignoring me for so long, then flattering me, the youngest princess, thinking I'd happily follow along, and giving me poison to put in such delicious food. Something like poison, just the thought of it made her shudder. Angrily, she made up her mind. Throw it away. If I'm caught red-handed this time, my head will really be separated from my neck. And I can't go back to those people who aren't like my parents. I can't let the important male lead die, either. Find a chance to throw it out the window or into the water. Then she declared her resolve aloud. That's what I'll do. But it wasn't easy. Even after thinking all night, she couldn't figure out how to dispose of the vial. Because she was being watched in the kitchen and elsewhere, the maids followed her constantly. She had no time to get rid of the poison. I'll find a chance when I wake up tomorrow. First, I'll try my best to keep it safe. Meanwhile, the Legion Duke couldn't sleep either, so he went to Lu Roni's room and called out, hey. Seeing she didn't move, he goaded her. How long are you going to tremble when you're called? At first, you were noisily talking about cheese sticks and such, not scared at all. But once all the procedures here are complete, you'll be taken to the Empire as a prisoner. But I plan to use you until I find a suitable witch. So I intend to offer you to the Emperor. And then I'll keep you at the Duke's mansion. So I'm thinking of changing how I treat you, like devouring you. Hearing this, Luro and I thought, is this kind advice telling me to treat him comfortably? Or is he suggesting I change my habits? The Legion Duke couldn't hold back any longer, stepping closer as he said loudly, are you listening? Worried he would come closer, Luro and I hurriedly replied, I heard everything. Suddenly, she saw the Legion Duke pull back the blanket, prompting, you must look into someone's eyes when you answer them. After the two struggled for a moment, the Legion Duke's voice dripped with sarcasm. As expected, was this your intention all along? Luro and I could only think, it's because he pulled me down. Then, she corrected him confusedly. No, I turned around, but I tripped on the blanket. Because she was trying so hard to explain, she accidentally dropped the vial of poison onto the bed. Before she could even process what had happened, both she and the Legion Duke reached for the vial. Unfortunately, he grabbed it first, carefully observing it. His eyes glared at Luro and I with fury. Is this poison? Her voice trembled as she explained, I don't know anything. The Legion Duke gave a sinister smile, and then quickly continued, but it came out of your bag, didn't it? Yet you say you don't know what it is? I actually spoke kindly to someone like you who hides poison, telling you to just be comfortable. How absurd. In the end, you're a witch too, aren't you? Luro and I explained with a sad face. This is a misunderstanding. My words. Before she could finish, she saw the Legion Duke drink the entire vial, and she panicked. At this moment, she truly felt confused and scared. She hurriedly ran over, snatched the vial, and exclaimed, what are you doing? Worried that it was now empty, Luro and I asked the Legion Duke without hesitation, what in the world are you doing? He then confidently affirmed, it's a bit of a pity, but this amount won't kill me. I'm immune to most poisons. Even so, Luroni's demeanor remained worried as she scolded him. So you just drank poison like that? Drank poison. You didn't listen to me at all. Why? Why are you so careless with your own body? Ron, who was standing outside the door, also panicked and ran in to check. Your Highness, what's wrong? I kept hearing loud noises. Unexpectedly, the knight misunderstood, thinking that Luro and I was lovingly adjusting the Legion Duke's clothes. After standing blankly for a moment, he said embarrassingly, I'm sorry, please enjoy yourselves, and then ran off, leaving the two standing blankly for a moment. Then, they accidentally bumped into each other. The Legion Duke cried out worriedly, oh no, flustered and embarrassed. Luro and I hurriedly explained, I'm sorry, I was too agitated. His voice equally filled with panic. The Legion Duke was about to lunge towards her, then abruptly stopped himself, struggling to maintain his composure, and ordered, "Get out. I'll address this later." Lu Ro and I quickly understood and rushed out of the room like a gust of wind. She then stood blankly for a moment, and then saw Henry walking towards her with a smile, her eyes widening in surprise. "I heard a big commotion, so I came to see, but why are you here?" Lu Ro and I stammered. "And nothing to see. It's someone else's business." "No way." He saw him and couldn't help but think, "Why is that kid here?" Then quickly commanded, "The Duke told me to take you to another private room. This way." Henry even exclaimed happily, "Great. You don't have to sleep in the hallway anymore." Only, Lu Ro and I still felt worried, turning to look at Ingred and asking shakily, "Is the Legion Duke all right?" An unreadable remorse flickered in her eyes. The Legion Duke, holding the vial in his hand, was still struggling with the drug's effects. An aphrodisiac, exquisitely made, too, and the purity of the drug is high. That foolish princess couldn't have prepared this. He then sighed incomprehensibly. "I said things like absurd rumors should be set aside for the time being because they aren't worth paying attention to, so I ignored them. But for someone to send this kind of drug, could there be another deeper meaning?" A raven in the room cawed, "Master," and swiftly grabbed the vial that the Legion Duke tossed. "Go and find out," he muttered to himself. "I can guess who did it, but I need to confirm." Resurrected like a ghost. I wonder if my situation is novel or rebellious. As she cooked, Lu Roni's ears caught a chilling word: execution. She immediately sought confirmation. Executed? Really? It was affirmed. Yes, I heard they were executed early this morning. Their bodies were hung at the city gates. The news struck her with genuine surprise. She asked again, "So suddenly?" Henry insisted, "Yes, very suddenly. That's why I came here. Doesn't the princess know anything about it?" Her mind raced, trying to piece things together. She stammered. Henry's gaze suddenly fell upon the food. "That's the Duke's meal, isn't it?" Lu Ro and I replied absently. "Ah, yes, it's breakfast." Her thoughts drifted. "I don't know what he drank last night, but I chose something that wouldn't be too hard on his stomach." Observing her distraction, Henry continued, his curiosity piqued. "You two made such a commotion yesterday, but you still have the energy to cook? Let me help you." Seeing Lu Roni's hesitation, he quickly explained, "Isn't it because you're embarrassed to see the Duke? I can take the meal to his study for you." A thought suddenly flashed through Lu Roni's mind. Is this man pitying me? The youngest princess of a fallen nation, whose parents died overnight. Regardless, the truth was, she was embarrassed to see the Legion Duke. The thought spurred her to accept his offer. "Then could I ask you a favor? I'll share some of the food with you." Faced with Henry's enthusiastic thanks, she suddenly realized that this might have been his intention all along. "Well then," she sighed, carefully washing the stack of dishes. "It's quiet now." She paused, the word execution echoing in her mind. "I don't know why I don't feel even sad. They were my real parents anyway, considering how they treated me in the past. It's not unreasonable. Compared to me, Sister Ingrid is more worrisome. What if, at most, it was just a letter politely rejecting an unwanted courtship? Because of that, the nation fell, my sisters are imprisoned, and my parents. Unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable." The Legion Duke soon received his breakfast. "Here is your meal, Legion Duke." He glanced up briefly. "Where's that boy? Are you delivering the food in his place?" Then he heard Henry's explanation. "I was asked to—" The Duke, in turn, asked curiously, "What is she doing now?" "Washing dishes in the kitchen." Henry suddenly realized with surprise. "Did I interfere uselessly?" Her Highness is staring at the doorway, as if she wants to rush out at any moment. The Legion Duke finally accepted the situation calmly. "Very well." He quickly scanned the day's menu. Beef bourguignon. Main ingredients are beef and tomatoes, with potatoes, carrots, and broccoli, simmered for a long time. The Duke quickly summarized, "So, a stew." Then a sudden confusion struck him. Usually, the meat should be roasted, or it's normal to add a lot of precious spices. Even so, I can't sense many spices here. He quickly tasted a bite and easily recognized the rich flavor of the tender stewed beef, hidden beneath its simplicity. From the earthy taste of the potatoes and the gentle sweetness of the carrots to the slight sourness of the tomatoes, it brought a different, novel flavor. The broth was clear, and all the flavors blended together perfectly. I didn't know eating could bring such satisfaction. Even in execution, if carried out after a meal like this, the outcome might be different. Having finished his breakfast, Henry soon took his leave. "Well then, I'll be going." The Legion Duke watched him go, his mind once again filled with thoughts. I left the cooking to a brat like that, and now I'm staring at the kitchen myself? I then decided to leave, keeping my eyes on his retreating figure. Legion's thoughts swirled again. I let a kid like that handle the cooking, and now here I am, standing in the kitchen myself. Is it because of what happened last night, or a demonstration against my execution of her parents? I sent a raven yesterday, so even if I didn't go see it myself, I know what he did. His Majesty, upon receiving the news quickly, explained in surprise, the Legion Duke executed the king and queen, and then cleaned up the place, and his return isn't far off either. And the thing I requested, his knight, hearing this, quickly replied. He said he found it. He continued with satisfaction. That's good news, isn't it? Then we should slowly prepare to welcome the war hero on our side, shouldn't we? Lu Ro and I was meticulously inspecting each bean. Now I have to soak this for 8 hours, then steam it. I have to find the right kind. The Legion Duke suddenly appeared, asking, "What are you doing here?" Startled, Lu Ro and I splashed water everywhere. Utterly surprised, wondering why the Legion Duke was there, she stammered, "Nothing. Did the bean splash on you?" "I'm sorry." The young man stood silently, watching her. Lu Ro and I grew more bewildered. "Is there something wrong with the food?" He replied that there wasn't, and then quietly observed the clothes she was wearing. Lu Ro and I lowered her head, repeating, "I'm sorry," the Legion Duke commanded. "Well then, pack your things." She stared blankly, eyes wide. He continued, "We're returning to the Empire." She could only manage a reply of, "Ah." She seemed to have more to say, so he asked curiously, "What is it?" Lu Ro and I immediately pointed at the food shelf and asked, "Can I take the food?" "And the roast beef, cheese, and jam I made before." He looked indifferent, saying, "It's fine. Besides that, what else do you need?" She replied with a smile, "Isn't food the most important thing?" He turned his back. "Well," I asked a meaningless question. Only now did she stand there, thinking, "But if I go back to the Empire, could it be?" On the day of departure, the beautiful Lady Ingred sat atop an expensive white horse. Lu Ro and I, seeing her, was ecstatic. As expected, Sister Ingrid came too, but the security is too tight, I can't get close. The Legion Duke asked, "Is it still far?" She quickly answered, "No." Then she handed him a meal. Today's menu is barley bread with cheese and fig jam and hot corn soup. Everything is presented simply, but it's quite lovely. It's no different from a camping trip. Lu Ro and I asked anxiously, "Is this really okay?" He looked at the meal and said, "I've already said it. I'd rather chew on dirt than eat food she hasn't touched." As soon as he finished speaking, he ate deliciously, while she remained sitting blankly, thinking about that sentence. Because of the curse. That's why he said that, right? Lu Ro and I asked curiously. After we arrive at the Empire, will I be going to the Legion Duke's residence? He replied with a hint of discomfort. "What are you talking about?" "You'll be coming with me to see His Majesty." Hearing this, she was utterly shocked. "Me?" The Legion Duke reminded her. "I said it before. Did you forget?" "Because I have to report the spoils of war to His Majesty." She replied with a laugh. "I forgot." She didn't seem very happy inwardly. "I thought I could stay away from him until we got there." He told her something. "Since I've already said this much, I'll say it all. Don't fall in love with His Majesty." She was surprised by his words. Fall in love? Why would I fall in love with the Emperor? No, His Majesty. I'm not someone who falls easily. The Legion Duke frowned, saying, whether it's easy or difficult, it's all the same to His Majesty, so saying it beforehand is useless. Seeing the Duke's backhanded remark, she laughed inwardly. "What is this? Then why say it?" she asked, perplexed. "Why are you so sure? You don't know what my preferences are." The Legion Duke said with a smile, "You're that confident?" Lu Ro and I replied resolutely, "Of course." He made a bargain. "Then, if you truly don't fall in love with His Majesty, I'll give you something good." The citizens in the streets held a fervent, welcoming ceremony for the Legion Duke's return, the sounds of trumpets and confetti filling the air. People cheered jubilantly, even bringing flowers as gifts. "Long live the Empire! Welcome back!" His Majesty, standing on the balcony above, declared, "Everyone has waited a long time. It's not just me who finds this lively, is it? You've worked hard." He gave a brilliant smile. "Welcome to the Empire," Ingrid said sarcastically. "Your Majesty, kind words actually coming from your mouth?" His Majesty feigned ignorance. "When have I ever spoken ill?" She cried out in exasperation. "How can someone be so shameless? After trampling another nation." He gave a sinister smile. "If you had listened to me earlier, this wouldn't have happened, would it?" Ingrid remained silent, not uttering another word. Lu Ro and I, as a bystander, felt a shiver of fear. The pressure was palpable. "Legion." "Yes, Your Majesty." He suddenly chuckled. You carried out your mission splendidly. I'm satisfied. The Legion Duke humbly replied. You overpraise me, Your Majesty. His Majesty, walking forward, voiced his doubts. But what is this? Seeing His Majesty standing so close, Lu Ro and I paled, drained of all color. The Legion Duke reminded him of his promise before the expedition. Your Majesty said that in that kingdom, I could have something, take anything I desired. He realized, so you chose this? Well, I wonder what talent this person possesses to be chosen by this rough and grumpy fellow. She hesitantly replied, her voice trembling. In the royal kitchen, everyone was busy preparing the meal. His Majesty's aide shouted, Everyone make way. This is His Majesty's command. Lu Ro and I held an onion in her hand, then some spring onions. In the magnificent and splendid palace, the Legion Duke felt uncomfortable. What is she doing? His Majesty calmly walked over and replied, What are you thinking? The Duke's girl cooking? Do you want to embarrass me? He immediately denied it. It's not that kind of relationship. His Majesty looked surprised. It's not? Then, that's strange. Someone like the Duke, who can't taste anything, brings someone who has no special talent other than cooking. The Legion Duke defended her. I can taste the food she makes. Hearing these seemingly unreal words, His Majesty chuckled, his tone sarcastic. Is that why you look like you've gained weight? You were so thin these past few months, I couldn't bear to look at you, but you look much better now. Very well, my valued knight want her. So be it. As agreed, you may take the youngest princess. He bowed his thanks. Thank you, Your Majesty. His Majesty added, Bring her here occasionally. The Legion Duke replied worriedly, It's dangerous. His Majesty asked haughtily, Dangerous? How could a princess be related to your curse? The chefs were bewildered by Lu Ro and Ni's appearance. What's going on? What are you doing? Lu Ro and I stared boredly at the two ingredients in her hands, lost in thought. I didn't expect to be cooking even in the royal palace. Is it because His Majesty asked you to make him something, and since you're good at it, he wants to see what you can do? She looked around, preparing to begin. It seems I don't need to worry about ingredients. This oven is so big, it could fit a person inside. She took a basket and selected fresh vegetables and fruits. Meat dishes in this era are usually roasted or steamed with spices. So, if I make fried food, even if the Emperor has eaten many rare foods, he'll find it delicious. Having found the dish she wanted to make, Lu Ro and I smiled brightly. But if the Legion Duke eats that kind of food every day, he'll get tired of it. She took out a piece of fresh beef. Let's make this first. Cut the meat into bite-sized pieces, season it with pepper and salt, and mix in minced garlic. Make a batter with flour, cold water, and beer, adding a little oil. When it's cooked, prepare the remaining ingredients. Stir-fry the ingredients in oil until they're just done. Add the sugar, lemon juice, and starch. Lu Ro and I oversaw the entire kitchen. Let it cool, she instructed, and the chef beside her nodded. Yes, madam. Finally, the meat was coated in batter. Then drop it into a pot of boiling oil. Twice is best, if you fry it twice. At last, she completed the crispy, sweet, and sour fried meat, served with a rich dipping sauce. Lu Ro and I sampled it, assessing the flavor. It's missing 2% of the flavor because there's no soy sauce, but it's delicious enough like this. I'll give as much as possible to the Legion Duke and only a little to His Majesty. Everything ready. She remembered to turn and express her gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for helping me. I'm sorry for barging in like this. I'll clean up later. Well, I'm off. The palace chefs stared after her blankly. The doors slowly opened, and His Majesty anticipated the arrival of his meal. He was quite surprised, faster than I expected. Lu Ro and I diligently explained, because this dish doesn't take much time, the palace chefs helped me bring it here. Eat it while it's hot. Eat it while it's hot. Fried food is best when it's crispy and hot. A heaping plate, the Legion Duke's portion, was placed before His Majesty, while a meager portion, meant for the Emperor, sat before the Legion Duke. Luroni panik. The plates were switched. His Majesty regarded the strange dish with surprise. Fried. She struggled to maintain her composure as she explained. Yes, the name of this dish is sweet and sour fried meat. It's made by frying pork in hot oil, but inwardly, she was frantic. The Duke will feel unfairly treated. His Majesty's face was still filled with suspicion. Sweet and sour fried meat? The Legion Duke, seemingly understanding his cue, reached out to try it first. Lu Ro and I awaited his assessment. After eating, the Legion Duke was unusually silent. After a few seconds, he turned and declared, "It's not poisoned." His Majesty, reassured, replied, "All right." She cried out, "Well, I didn't put that in there." What a relief. With so little on the plate, what should I do? I'll have to fry another batch. Later, His Majesty inquired, what is this? She showed him how to eat it. This is the dipping sauce. If you prefer a softer, moister texture instead of crispy, you can also dip half the sauce before eating. It's delicious that way too. He dipped a small piece of fried meat into the sauce and placed it in his mouth. The dipping sauce and fried meat formed a harmonious combination, and His Majesty even rolled his eyes in pleasure. After finishing, he summoned the princess, who responded fearfully, yes. He said with a smile, come to the palace sometime when you're free. Luro and I was surprised by the invitation. Yes, Your Majesty. She breathed a sigh of relief. That was terrifying. The Legion Duke sat at the table with his head lowered, silent. After a while, he finally spoke. Your Majesty, that's mine. Both His Majesty and Luro and I were stunned. His Majesty burst out laughing. Legion Duke, really? Luro and I also hesitantly replied. Yes. The plates were switched. He laughed loudly. No wonder there was so much food. Switch them back. He didn't mind, replying, thank you, Your Majesty. His Majesty also mocked Luro and I. I thought the princess did this to show her goodwill towards me. He summoned the princess again, startling her. He asked if she could make the dish again. I also quite enjoyed this particular dish, but the plates were switched. She was so surprised, her eyes didn't even blink. After a few seconds, she regained her senses and hurried off. Yes, please. Wait a moment, I'll fry another batch. As she prepared another pot of meat, both His Majesty and the Duke were amazed. The day's busy work finally over. Luro and I sat down in a chair, enjoying a moment of relaxation. His Majesty seems to live amongst flowers, but he ate a lot of sweet and sour meat. He's not as terrifying as I thought. The Legion Duke posed a question that made her freeze. So, are you in love? Hearing this, she immediately denied it. No. Then, in her mind, she thought, could it be? He asked, is it because of the bet from before? Of course. The male lead's halo is no joke. But if he was asking like this, was he still expecting her answer? If it were true, she answered with a laugh. Really no. If we're talking about preferences, the Legion Duke is more to my taste than His Majesty. Hearing these words, his heart fluttered a little, but he had a feigned disinterest. Indeed, peculiar taste. Is that just how a witch's palate is? She felt annoyed. Really, don't extrapolate everything from that one incident. He said, just listen to what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with being normal. His Majesty stood outside with a grim expression, recalling what he had said to the Legion Duke earlier. Could it be that the princess and your curse are related? The Legion Duke also spoke the truth. If you've already realized it, then there's nothing to hide. She said, she's an apprentice witch. She doesn't even know about my curse. I intend to keep her by my side to gather useful information. Hearing this, he could only laugh. The Legion Duke anxiously said, Your Majesty. He immediately reassured him. Don't worry. The existence of a witch is interesting, but I wouldn't be so petty as to steal from my subordinate. His Majesty asked suspiciously, but aside from this, is there truly no other connection? He bluntly replied, no, but he saw the way he looked at her adoringly, and also clearly saw the worry on his face. Back in the present, His Majesty stood alone, then laughed self-deprecatingly. Since ancient times, animals have been domesticated for food. Now I won't be bored. Upon arriving, the Legion Duke told her she could stay here. She was utterly astonished by its magnificent beauty. The place I live is a deserted palace, but still a nation's palace. But this place is clearly much better. She turned around and asked in surprise, Where are you going? Hearing his reply, she was annoyed. None of your business. What manner of speaking is that? A voice said, I'll guide you. Kai, the Legion Duke's butler, appeared with a warm smile on his face. Please follow me. As they went inside, she offered, I can carry it myself. But the butler insisted on carrying her luggage. No, this is what we should do. She felt apologetic, but having someone older than her carry her luggage made her feel guilty. He opened the door to her room and said, You can use this room. Going inside, she was awestruck by the large room. The butler also thoughtfully instructed her. The maids will come tomorrow. Until then, if you need anything, please look for me. She politely said, Thank you. He also replied amiably, What is there to thank me for? This is an obvious thing for me to do. She muttered to herself, I felt it just now, but why was he looking at me with that satisfied expression? Suddenly, he mentioned the Legion Duke. Although the Duke appears cold on the outside, he is profound on the inside. He is extremely gentle to his people, handsome, and skilled with the sword. He's also wealthy, thoughtful, and kind. She exclaimed, "Stop it." Then she made an excuse to get away. "I'm a little tired, so I'd like to rest." The butler, also feeling he had been a bit talkative, said, "Oh dear, is it because I was too long-winded? I'll be going. Please feel free to rest." After he left, she let out a long sigh. Her head felt like it was about to explode. "Is it really okay?" Lu Ro and I lay on the bed, exasperated. After all, the Legion Duke is Ingrid's beloved second male lead. I'm just a pitiful reincarnated person, dragged here unintentionally. What good are handsome looks and swordsmanship? They might just cost me my life. Really? Her eyelids grew heavy. "I'm so tired." Suddenly, her eyes snapped open, and she sat up abruptly, staring out the window. "What time is it? Did I fall asleep?" Her eyes widened, fixated on something unseen. Then she slumped back down, a melancholic sigh escaping her lips as she clutched her empty stomach. "I'm so hungry." She fumbled around, searching for the kitchen. Once she found it, she crept inside, cautious as a thief. "Good, no one's here. I was planning to eat when I woke up, but if this keeps up, I might starve. It feels a bit strange to eat so much with these ingredients on hand." And so, she began to cook. First, she finely diced onions until their sweetness bloomed. Then, she took the white part of torn bread and simmered it in water over medium heat. When it softened, she poured in milk, finishing it with a touch of salt and pepper. The steaming, fragrant bread porridge was complete. As expected, a light meal is enough. Suddenly, a voice echoed from seemingly nowhere. Lu Ro and I whirled around, fear gripping her. "Who's there?" She resolved to eat outside, so as not to disturb anyone. Trembling, she forced herself to think positive thoughts. "It's just the wind." Think happy thoughts. "The weather's nice today, and the night breeze is cool." Footsteps approached. It was the Legion Duke. The two stood face to face, their gazes locked. "Legion Duke," she stammered. He raised an eyebrow. "What are you doing here so late?" She explained, "Because I was hungry." He replied, "If that's the case, you could have asked a servant." She responded, "It's late. I'm sorry if I woke you." Curiosity flickered in Lu Roni's eyes. "You're still dressed in those clothes so late. Did you just return from the palace?" "Legion Duke, have you eaten dinner?" He answered curtly, "Not yet." A smile touched her lips. "I can tell. Would you like some of this? It may not look like much, but it's quite good." He looked surprised. "You didn't make this for me?" Lu Ro and I answered honestly, "I can make more here." She offered him the pot of bread porridge. It looked rather plain. The Legion Duke hesitantly picked up a spoon, the memory of his harsh criticism of the high-grade beef dish flashing through his mind. After a single taste, he erupted into a coughing fit. His butler, Kai, cried out in alarm, "Master!" He glared, his voice laced with disdain. "I'd rather drink poison than eat this. If it's going to be like this, there's no need to suffer." Kai, deeply worried, urged him, "But master, you should have another bite." His temper flared. Slamming his hand on the table, he exclaimed, "Do you think I don't know that? I'd rather drink something than eat this. I'll drink it right away." It looked similar to what the butler brought. After that, but he took another bite. The flavors of milk and bread melded perfectly. And unexpectedly, watching him eat with such relish, Lu Ro and I asked, "Is it good?" She mused silently. "I thought he wouldn't like such a simple dish, but he's eating it so well. That meal I had when I came to the Empire and the meals I missed. Does he really not taste the other dishes? Preferring to starve rather than eat disgusting food. How does this man even experience happiness?" Lu Ro and I declared, "Legion Duke, don't go hungry next time. I'll make you delicious food. I'll definitely make you gain weight, Legion Duke." A thought suddenly struck him, just like a witch would say, "I'll fatten you up." Then she quickly clarified, "No, I won't," he asked innocently. "Isn't a witch's job to fatten people up and then eat them?" She bristled. "Really? There's so much delicious food in the world. Why eat people?" He stared at her. "All witches are like that." Lu Ro and I devised a new game. "So promise me, I won't eat the Legion Duke, but we'll make lots of delicious food for you. So, I want the Legion Duke to eat everything I make without leaving any leftovers." They hooked their pinkies together. He stared at her hesitantly, as if about to say something, but he changed his mind, turning his face away. "Don't touch my hand so casually." She froze. "I'm sorry." His ears were completely red. It must be because he's so shy, she thought sadly. Did I go too far? Suddenly, the Legion Duke mentioned the wager about coming to the Empire. I said that if you didn't fall in love with His Majesty, I would give you something nice. I'll give you a separate kitchen. because you'll soon need it to make tomorrow's breakfast. At the mention of this precious gift, her eyes lit up. Thank you, Legion Duke. In the distance, someone was secretly watching their every move. The next morning at the villa, the day began with a shattered plate. He angrily asked the maid, "What are you doing now?" She stammered, "It's for the Legion Duke." He said sullenly, "He already said, from now on, there's no need to prepare separate meals for him." He was the head chef of the Legion Duke's mansion. The maid insisted, "No, not today. We'll make a dish the Legion Duke will eat, even if he says no. I'll take responsibility." He asked, "So the Legion Duke intends to starve completely?" She stammered. Kai also announced that someone will prepare a separate meal for him in the brand new kitchen. Luro and I was tasting a new dish. She smiled happily. "Perfect." She placed the food on a trolley. "All right, if I go now, I'll be just in time." Seeing someone peeking from outside the door, she wondered, "Who is it?" Kai, the butler, appeared, saying, "Luro and I, you're here because I didn't see you in your room. I was looking for you." She smiled. "You came just in time. Where will the Legion Duke be eating?" He remained silent at her question. Elsewhere, the sous chef kept nagging the head chef. "Chef, let's just go back. Even if she's from a collapsed kingdom, she's still a princess, and she's under the Duke's protection. We just need to do what we're supposed to do." The head chef looked annoyed. "My job as the best chef in the Empire is to make delicious meals for the Duke. For the past 5 years, I prepared meals for the Duke with all my knowledge and passion. But the result, it's not delicious. It tastes like garbage, no different from waste. All my efforts so far have been in vain. I don't believe in the power of love. I need to see it with my own eyes." The sous chef persuaded him. "Chef," the food trolley was being pushed down the hallway. Ro and I wondered, "Doesn't the Legion Duke eat breakfast?" Kai recounted, "Yes, he often skips meals, especially breakfast. Don't you usually have an appetite in the morning?" She tilted her head in thought. "Me?" He continued, "The Legion Duke will." She wondered, strange. Before coming here, he ate well. Kai knocked on the door, announcing, "Your Excellency, it's Kai." He put on his coat, saying, "Come in." To his surprise, it was Ro and I who entered. "Legion Duke, breakfast." Her gaze met a muscular, well-built physique. Embarrassed, she blushed, covering her eyes and turning around. "Excuse me." He calmly asked, "Well, is that breakfast?" Kai replied, "Yes. I know you don't eat breakfast, but Ro and I prepared this for you." He commanded, "Bring it over." Kai was extremely surprised by this change in him. He opened the lid of the food. Today's menu was pancakes with bacon and grilled sausages, a side of cranberry cream cheese salad, and hot milk tea. A side of cranberry cream cheese salad and hot milk tea. Kai found it strange. "This dish is," Ro and I asked from afar. "Can I turn around now?" "It's a cranberry muffin souffle. It's softer than regular pancakes because I mixed the batter with meringue." Kai, the butler, thought resolutely, "It looks unique and delicious, but the Duke never cares about such things." The Legion Duke picked up his fork and cut into the fluffy pancake. To his surprise, he took a bite. Ro and I beamed as she watched the Legion Duke eat, while Kai gaped, unable to believe his eyes. She asked brightly, "Is it good?" He replied, Kai muttered to himself, confirming his suspicions. I knew their relationship wasn't normal. So the stranger who appeared in the kitchen was him, and the one hiding behind the tree, watching them, was him too. Tears welled up in his eyes. Before coming back, His Highness gained more weight, all thanks to the power of love. She instructed him to stir the milk tea. In the blink of an eye, the Duke finished his breakfast. Humming to herself, Ro and I walked down the hallway, thinking, what should I make for lunch? First, I'll have my share of the muffin souffle. Spotting someone heading towards her kitchen, she paused to observe. Ro and I was puzzled by the stranger's appearance. To get this cleared up, she called out, "Excuse me, who are you?" He suddenly lunged towards her, startling her. She instinctively raised her hands defensively. He bowed politely and introduced himself. "I am Kue, the Duke's chef." She was taken aback. "The chef? What brings you here?" Kue confided, "I'd like to ask you for a favor." Ro and I was surprised. "Ask me." He elaborated, "Yes, I couldn't believe you were in charge of the Duke's meals, so I came here to see for myself." He had overheard her conversation with the Duke earlier. "Is it good?" Both chefs had been utterly astonished when the Duke praised the meal. Jealousy rose within him. Kue called out with all his might, "Please have a cooking competition with me." Ro and I hesitated. "Well," he insisted on the competition. "No, if I don't do this, I won't believe it." She became flustered. "What should I do?" Coincidentally, Henry happened to be passing by. He asked with a smile, "What's so interesting? Can Ro and I join in? You need judges, right?" She was surprised. "Sir Henry," Kuei responded to his question. Of course, if a knight acts as a judge, it'll be fair. So let's do it, Henry said excitedly. Great, I'm free anyway. Lu Ro and I felt left out. What about my opinion? A voice interjected. You don't have to force yourself to accept. Excuse me, Miss Lu Ro and I'm a sous chef, Gus. You can ignore his request. I'll apologize on behalf of head chef Kuei. Qui et claimed Ingred, Goose. But he ignored him and continued. The head chef was just curious. He heard that the Duke, who dislikes breakfast, ate everything Miss Lu Ro and I made. He's been dying to know what kind of dish could move the Duke. Now she understood the reason. Gus continued. He's a bit rude. I'll take him away as soon as possible. With that, he turned to tell the head chef to leave. Suddenly, Lu Ro and I called out for them to wait. A clear resolve hardened her features as she confidently accepted the challenge. I'll compete with you. Meanwhile, in his study, prompted by everyone's comments, he was forced to look in the mirror. Is this why I've been gaining weight so fast? I gained even more weight before coming here. He still couldn't believe he had gained so much weight. Butter sizzled in a pan. Lu Ro and I rushed in from seemingly nowhere. Kuei wondered, what is she thinking? Suddenly, her expression turned serious as she issued her challenge. I'll compete with you. Hearing this, everyone looked at her in confusion. Lu Ro and I continued, but on one condition. In the competition, we make the dish we're most confident in. We have 2 judges, so Sir Henry can call one more person here, right? He readily agreed. Leave it to me. Lu Ro and I cleared her throat and declared, then let's begin, head chef. He was indifferent, unconcerned. Honestly, she's under no obligation to accept this request. If he were in the Duke's favor, he would have called for a night long ago. Yet, with the theme being the best dish, she even added another judge, creating a situation where he might not win. After a while, the summoned person arrived. He smirked to himself. Who does she think she is? Taking the head chef's place just because she's the Duke's lover. He felt relaxed. Well then, I should do my best too, someone guessed. He's planning to make Chateau brined. Lu Ro and I asked back, Chateau what? Don't you know? He explained, it's a high-class steak made with the most tender part of the tenderloin. By the way, it's his signature dish. What are you making, Miss Lu Ro and I? She replied with a smile. I have a menu. 1 bite to kill. After a while, the dishes were finished. Henry praised him. Amazing. No wonder you're the Duke's chef. He was completely confident in the result. This is my best dish. If I win, then it looks delicious, Lu Ro and I suddenly exclaimed. She suggested, head chef, may I try it after the judging? He didn't understand why, but he agreed. What's with this reaction? Isn't she afraid of my cooking? Before that, Miss Lu Ro and I, please present your dish. Lu Ro and I quickly opened it. Ah yes, my dish is, what is this? Kuei looked, but couldn't guess what it was. She introduced, this is chicken carbonara. Chicken is the most delicious, but I thought, since it's a competition, I should make something new and unique. Please try it. It won't be as good if it gets cold. All right, everyone, let's begin the tasting. Kuei frowned and thought, what a strange dish. Carbonara sauce is usually used for pasta, but using it with chicken like this is a bit. Suddenly, a dish was placed before him. Head chef, this is for you. He curiously picked up a piece and slowly tasted it. His expression did a complete 180. This taste. The moment he put the fried chicken in his mouth, it blended with the soft and savory carbonara sauce. The pungent aroma of raw onions and the slightly salty spices maintained its softness, creating a rich flavor. Henry said, truly, both dishes are incredibly delicious. Well then, let's begin judging the dishes. Suddenly, an indecisive voice rang out. Kuei admitted defeat. I never imagined I could make a dish like yours. A gloomy atmosphere surrounded him. My ignorance caused unnecessary harm, hindering Miss Lu Ro and I. I will gladly accept any punishment you give to Miss Lu Ro and I. She hadn't expected this development. Come to think of it, this dish isn't even my own invention. Please stand up. I don't want to hear the head chef say such things. He was embarrassed, but Lu Ro and I suddenly realized something. She interrupted Kuei. If you're willing, please help me. He was puzzled. You're saying, help you? She spoke sincerely, yes. Actually, I'm still unfamiliar with the cuisine here, and the head chef has been cooking for the Duke for a long time, right? And there's also that excellent technique from before, so I want to learn from you. Would you be willing to teach me? As soon as she finished speaking, he burst out laughing. Then he accepted. All right, it would be my honor to teach you. The judges felt regret. How boring. We haven't even given our evaluation yet. There's no need. It's a good thing it ended peacefully. I was worried something bad would happen. But thankfully, he looked toward the girl. Miss Lu Ro and I resolved the issue. A month quickly passed. Lu Ro and I shouted joyfully. Finally, it's done. The head chef blankly asked. It's working on its own? She nodded in reply. Yes. I couldn't solve it right away. But if I kept at it, the soybean paste was bound to be completed. Finally, my soybean paste is a success. She hugged the jar tightly, feeling emotional. Because they don't have clay pots, it was hard to find something similar. But I could spend more time or money here. After the soy sauce and soybean paste are finished, I still have to make gochujang. And after that, I have to make kimchi pancakes, kimchi fried rice, and kimchi stew. Watch her carefully. Miss Lu Ro and I, why are you drooling? She remembered another person's presence. Ah, Gui. He said, yes. Lu Ro and I held his hand. Thank you for helping me all this time. I couldn't have done it without your help. He blushed shyly, then stammered. No, I didn't help much. A cool breeze swept through the area. The Legion Duke watched all the developments carefully. He looked through the window. Butler, he called. The other person appeared immediately. Yes, Your Grace. How old is the head chef this year? The Legion Duke was suddenly curious about something. How old is the chef? The butler replied. He is still in his 20s. Although he is young, his cooking skills are excellent. So Your Grace hired him? He interrupted unhappily. I know, because he was considered a genius. I paid him a high salary. But the food he makes is extremely terrible. He sat down in his chair, pondering further. They both share a common interest in cooking, so it's natural that they're close. But why? He asked worriedly. Are you tired? The Legion Duke shook his head. No, I'm fine. I'll have Miss Lu Ro and I prepare some tea to relieve your stress. That would be great. The answer came back with lightning speed. The butler said blankly, yes. He clarified, tell her to prepare tea. After a while, Lu Ro and I arrived. A reward. The Legion Duke took a sip of tea and said, although you didn't say it, I heard that you handled the chef's matter yourself. It seems you're managing the mansion's affairs well, without any difficulty. In other words, you'll have your deserved reward. She hesitated, unsure of what to do. Suddenly, His Grace asked, what do you want? Suddenly, something came to mind, and her face became radiant. Can I go to the market? I heard that the market in town holds a large fair 5 days a week. Upon hearing this, he didn't understand. The servants can bring you the necessary ingredients. Lu Ro and I confided sincerely, but it's really fun to choose the ingredients myself. I'm also curious about what the Empire's specialties are, she affirmed firmly. I won't try to run away. Not all. If you're worried, then I can go with Koei. Hearing this, the Legion Duke choked on his tea. You want to go like that? He made his decision. Then, let's go on our day off. She asked in surprise. Aren't you busy? It's all right just for a day. Besides, there's one more thing I have to tell you. Lu Roni's body was washing dishes, but her soul had drifted off somewhere. Koei asked, Miss Lu Ro and I, what about the Duke's lunch? She sighed wearily. I'm not preparing lunch and dinner either. He didn't understand what was going on. Yes, her voice was lifeless. From today onwards, he'll be having lunch and dinner at the Imperial Palace. So he said I only need to make breakfast. He frowned, speculating. Is she upset that she can't prepare meals for the Duke? I understand that feeling. After all, I used to be like that too. The fire in his heart burned. Cheer up, Miss Lu Ro and I. Lu Ro and I slowly opened the cupboard door. Her thoughts were a jumbled mess right now. At this moment, she thought bitterly. I worked so hard to fatten him up so he'd become obedient. What if his personality reverts back to how it was before if he eats outside? It's not just one meal, but two. If it's the Duke, he'll have a lot of work. So he won't just stay at the Imperial Palace for a day or two, right? Seeing her standing still, Koei wondered, what are you looking for? Lu Ro and I quickly replied, I was just about to wash the dishes and put them away. It's been a while since I took these bowls out. Her gaze accidentally landed on something. In the blink of an eye, it was afternoon. The attack was aimed precisely at the target. The Legion Duke gracefully wiped his sweat. Can you do it when the target is large? Use the strength of your shoulder, not your elbow. Yes, let's practice one more time. Someone rejoiced. Training's over, so it's time for dinner. Extremely appealing dishes had been prepared. After training, everyone chatted and laughed cheerfully. It's so great to have stew. Isn't it because Leviathan Knight's strength and food are the best? Only the Legion Duke remained silent. He took a bite and frowned. Is it because I often eat the witch's food that these dishes are more disgusting than usual? But I have to eat regardless. Lunch wasn't good, and if dinner is the same, someone rushed in, shouting, "Your Grace, what is it?" The Legion Duke turned his head. His Majesty wishes to see you in the hall after you've finished your meal. He paused for a few seconds, then abruptly stood up. I'll go now. The other person was confused. Yes, but you can go after you've finished eating. The Legion Duke said motionlessly, I've finished eating. The next morning arrived. He glanced at it. What's this pile? Lu Ro and I replied cheerfully. It's a lunchbox. He tried to maintain an indifferent expression. Didn't I say before that I would eat at the Imperial Palace? She replied excitedly. Does your Grace find it unappetizing? He hesitated, then made an excuse. I can eat it anyway. This didn't fool Lu Ro and I. You're lying. Take it. I prepared a lot. He interrupted. It's not that I want you to take all of this. I didn't realize there was so much food when I made it. She came up with a solution. But 2 meals a day, lunch and dinner, isn't that just enough? There's so much I don't know where to put it. This problem didn't faze her. Then why don't you try taking the carriage? Although it's a bit troublesome, I pour my heart and soul into it, and it's really delicious. She looked at him, her eyes sparkling. Okay, Your Grace, please agree. He was stunned by her cuteness. The news spread quickly. The Legion Duke went to the Imperial Palace by carriage? That's rare. Was there anyone else in the carriage? The other person hesitated. Well, there was no one there. I heard the Duke brought several baskets. His Majesty laughed coldly. It seems the Duke has something to do. Should I call him over? The Legion Duke asked in surprise. Are you talking about the carriage? He lowered his head and explained. It's nothing for your Majesty to worry about. His Majesty approached and said, Even so, I'm still curious. You're not usually like this. A Duke known for working all day and going straight home. His Majesty's words were laden with implications. Yet, you brought personal belongings. He glanced over and replied, That's a lunchbox. Because I couldn't resist that girl's cute appearance, I brought it along. I heard there was too much to carry, so it had to be put in the carriage. Could it be? His Majesty thought, but couldn't believe it. It's all lunchboxes. He couldn't help but laugh. That's too much, isn't it? Can you finish it all yourself? I didn't know there was so much. His Majesty acknowledged. Indeed, he suggested. Then, it wouldn't be bad to share some with me, right? The Legion Duke nodded in response. Of course, Your Majesty. He felt a bit gloomy inside. His Majesty guessed something. That princess seems to have tamed the Legion Duke quite smoothly. Just a little teasing, and he can't hide his displeasure. It's good to have another way to deal with him, but it'll be troublesome if he gets too absorbed. He said there's a lot of food, so I can tell you what I want to say slowly later. A voice rang out. Miss Lu Ro and I. Her gaze was fixed on the window. He asked curiously, Is there something outside? She hurriedly replied, No, just stirring, looking at the garden. He reminded her, You don't have to stir so much. It wasn't hard to notice that Lu Ro and I seemed absent-minded. She'd been like that all day. He recounted, she nearly broke the jars, then put different spices in different bottles, and even slipped 5 times in the kitchen. She explained in surprise, 5 times already? But today was my first time making lunchboxes. I don't know if anything changed during the transport. I'm worried about the taste. He understood what she meant. If I were a chef, I'd certainly be curious about the reaction. Lu Ro-Ni's mood began to brighten. Just then, someone knocked and announced, Miss Lu Ro and I've brought the carriage. The Legion Duke has returned. She hurried off to find him. Legion Duke, he replied. What is it? Lu Ro and I approached, her voice brimming with sweetness. What did you think of the lunchboxes? Your impressions? He asked indifferently in return. She couldn't look him in the eye. You have to tell me, so I can make even better lunchboxes tomorrow. After a long pause, the Legion Duke finally spoke. Well, it was delicious. His face flushed slightly. His Majesty was also pleased. She was surprised to hear about His Majesty. Do you often eat with His Majesty? He replied, Not usually, but I don't know why it was like that today. She remembered he had enjoyed the sweet and sour pork ribs last time, so he probably wanted to share. Suddenly, the Legion Duke instructed, But don't prepare them tomorrow. Lu Ro and I said sadly, Huh? What? He continued, Tomorrow, you're coming with me to the Imperial Palace. The next morning, the servant worried, She's not eating again today? Yes, it's been several days. If this continues, she'll collapse. Ingrid was out of energy. Her stomach felt like it was being ripped apart. She hasn't eaten anything, so she's too dizzy. It's getting harder to stay conscious. But if this continues, I might be able to see my parents soon. A familiar voice called Ingrid's name. She vaguely saw her mother beside her. Wait, don't go. A few seconds later, she realized it was the curtains. Ingrid thought wearily. Now I'm even hallucinating. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Just then, Lu and I opened the door and walked in. She exclaimed in surprise, "Oh my, is Sister Ingrid all right?" Ingrid slowly turned her head. Am I hallucinating again? But that child, her eyes gazed dreamily at Lu and I. Yes, sister. She came over and held Ingrid's hand. She suddenly felt a sense of relief wash over her. I'm here. The previous night, His Majesty had discovered she hadn't eaten again. It's too difficult to bring her here. If this continues, she'll die. Keep sending her food. Yes, Your Majesty. Ingrid trembled with anger. This is absurd. All he wants is me. But why is he doing this? She glared at him resentfully. I won't let you have your way, never, she swore to herself. Lu and I said, You must be surprised, right? I heard you weren't well, so I came right away, but I didn't expect it to be this serious. Oh, I made you some porridge. It'll make you feel better. Ingrid put down her spoon. Lu and I, she asked with concern. Are you all right? Yes. Lu and I looked at her blankly. I lost everything. Ingrid recounted. Our title, our parents, our kingdom, and everyone else. We lost everything, but how can you? She thought for a moment and said, Isn't it because what we sisters lost is different? Now Ingrid didn't understand what she meant. Lu and I calmly recalled. What I lost were tattered clothes, a dilapidated place where I grew up, filled with danger. My father was like a stranger to me because he didn't even remember my face. That's all. She asked softly. I was the abandoned princess. Did you forget? Ingrid felt a pang of guilt. I'm sorry, I didn't think of it that way, she hurriedly explained. It doesn't mean I don't know what you're going through. I know very well. There was a time when I thought I had nothing left, but then Lu and I paused for a few seconds and continued. I focused on what remained. It's not about what I've lost. I'm still alive, thinking about what to do tomorrow. Ingrid's sister's words touched her heart. I'm still alive, thinking about what to do tomorrow. Lu and I was pleased with the gift. For me, it's as simple as cooking. I think I'm being a bit of a chatterbox. She slowly took a spoonful of porridge. Lu and I was overjoyed. Ingrid's tears continued to flow. She gently patted her sister's back. Eat slowly. There's plenty more, sister. After a while, Ingrid said, I'm finished. The bowl of porridge and the glass of water were both empty. Lu and I breathed a sigh of relief. I guess she was sleep-deprived. She looks like she's sleeping soundly after eating. Just then, the door to the room opened. She whispered, Oh. His Majesty entered and walked over to the bedside. Has she finally eaten? Luroni hisitativ. Well, His Majesty's eyes were filled with sorrow. He reached out to touch Ingrid's face. Lu and I flashed in front of His Majesty, blocking him. She's still sleeping. The Legion Duke hadn't expected this move. Then His Majesty asked in a low voice. Lu and I spoke boldly. She just fell asleep, so even if you were the Emperor, he pulled her closer and lowered his head. I apologize for her behavior. His Majesty feigned curiosity. Why is the Legion Duke interfering and apologizing? He didn't shy away, answering frankly. The princess's arrogant behavior just now was because she is my person. Lu and I was shocked by these words. His Majesty's face darkened. Enough. I don't want to hear any more. Get out, as you wish. They both left the room together. He found it ridiculous. A woman dared to stand before the Emperor, and my subordinate interfered and protected her. His Majesty's laughter echoed throughout the hall. A cruel thought crossed his mind. Should I kill her? No one else was in the entire corridor. The two of them continued talking as they walked. I told you to be careful. You don't know how precious your life is standing before the Emperor like that. Lu and I was absent-minded. I'm sorry my sister is ill, so I'm feeling down. The Legion Duke warned, be careful from now on. The Emperor is not a good man. She learned a deep lesson. Yes, I'll be extremely careful, extremely. I must have been mad. He's a madman, someone who would destroy the kingdom to satisfy his crazed hobbies. She suddenly remembered something. By the way, Legion Duke, what? He replied. She looked at him, her gaze unwavering. When did I become the Duke's person? The Legion Duke didn't answer. You're talking nonsense. You are a prisoner under my supervision, so of course I am responsible for what you do. Lu and I hesitated. Oh, well then, I'll be even more careful from now on. Let's go back. He quickly walked away coldly, his purpose to hide his embarrassment. Lu and I asked blankly, Don't I need to bring a shopping bag? The butler explained, The servants will carry the ingredients you purchase, so you don't need to bring a bag. Oh, the butler reminded her, right? You should hurry and go out. His Highness is waiting soon. Everyone had arrived. I didn't expect the market to be so big. I didn't expect it to be like this because I thought it was just an ordinary market, but I didn't expect it to be so vast. I could see all sorts of ingredients. Suddenly, someone bumped into her. She called out, Wait for me. The Legion Duke quickly realized what was happening. At that moment, Lu Roanai thought she was going to fall. He instinctively and swiftly caught her. Lu Roanai fell into his arms. His warm voice reached her ears. I know you're excited, but don't stray too far from me. Her face slowly flushed crimson. She stammered, yes. Lu Roanai's small hand gripped his sleeve tightly. The Legion Duke found it ridiculous. If she let go now and blended into the crowd, she could escape from me. But unbelievably, she clings to me like this. I don't know if she's calculating or just being thoughtless. Suddenly, she explained, Lord Legion. He asked curiously what. Lu Roanai pointed at the cocoa beans. Buy me that. The shopkeeper said happily. You have a good eye. How much do you want? The more the better. Hello. Is this your first time seeing me? He stared blankly at the strange object. What are you going to do with that strange fruit? He looked at it longingly. I can't cook it right away, as I have to research the recipe. But with this, I can make a truly delicious dessert. The Legion Duke realized he was overthinking. She doesn't seem like that kind of woman at all. There's no calculating feeling. Thank you for your patronage. The owner smiled and said goodbye. Lu Roanai said sincerely, thank you. Although it's expensive, what do you think the Duke's mansion is? If it weren't for your stubbornness, I would have already bought everything in a market and put it in the kitchen. She was a little surprised. Really? If you say so, her voice said, just 10 will be enough. Thank you. I'll come again next time. All right. Lu Roanai was a little touched. I didn't think I'd be able to come here because the Legion Duke seems busy with alcohol after returning from the Imperial Palace. But he has free time today. Perhaps he wasn't exaggerating because of me, right? Lord Legion. His figure disappeared somewhere. She turned around and called out, Lord Legion. She became uneasy. Where did he go? He said I shouldn't stray too far from him. Suddenly, someone carelessly bumped into Lu Roanai. She wasn't paying attention, so she lost her balance. Am I going to fall again? Fortunately, someone caught her just in time. Are you all right? You almost fell. She stared at the person. His eyes are like crystals. Lu Roanai. Oh yes, thank you for helping me. She hurried away. A few seconds later, her brain caught up. Did he just call my name? Lu Roanai asked curiously. Do you know me? Isn't that obvious? How could I not know you? Elenia's child is our child too. She was stunned. Are you talking about someone named Elenia? Yes. Miss Lu Roanai. Before he could finish, a sharp sword was suddenly pointed at his neck. Who are you? She recognized him. She shook her head without answering. The Legion Duke coldly warned, she doesn't know you, so you'd better choose your words carefully in answering my question. His gaze seemed to want to devour the other person alive. I can slit your throat if I want to. Pointing his sword at the strange man's neck, the Legion Duke angrily threatened, whether I slit your throat or not depends on your answer. The man hesitated to answer. Then Lu Roanai said, wait. She grabbed his shirt, gently defending the stranger. Please wait, Lord Legion. He was just talking to me. It would be a bit much if you slit his throat. Before she could finish, the man called her name. Lu Roanai. He said, this place is extremely chaotic. We will meet again next time. Purple fog surrounded him, and then he vanished. The Legion Duke stared in astonishment, his eyes filled with fury. He was gone, leaving the two of them staring blankly at each other under a haze of bewilderment. As soon as they returned home, the Legion Duke locked her in a room, leaving her to knock on the door in confusion, unsure of what had happened. Inside the room, she knocked repeatedly, calling out, Hey, is anyone out there? Everyone, I need to talk to Lord Legion, just for a little bit. But there were many servants outside, yet everyone ignored her pleas, continuing with their work. She kept knocking, but received no response. After trying for a while, she helplessly screamed in frustration. Really, what is going on? Locked up here for days right after returning from the market. What did I do wrong? After making a fuss for a while, she calmed down. I really don't understand. Then she remembered the strange man. White hair and purple eyes. If I had ever seen someone as unique as that, I would never forget. But why does he feel so strange to me? She thought, recalling the stranger's words. Of course, it's because Elenia's child is also our child. She wondered, did he know me and my mother? Elenia's birth mother had been a maid in the Imperial Palace, fortunate enough to capture the king's affections. However, that fortune had ended after she gave birth, and then she died. The king disregarded and abandoned the newborn princess in a desolate place. All the maids left, for life there was miserable. At that time, there was only one person by her side. The maid being questioned said, what was the princess of the kingdom like? She cultivated the deserted garden to earn money for food. Life was truly difficult, but the princess never complained. But one day she said, "I just need to cook." Then she started kneading dough, even though I never taught her. She made many unique dishes. The maid knelt, tearfully lamenting to the Legion Duke. "Legion Duke, you are reading a letter that says witches must be different from ordinary people as they grow up. I myself admit," but the Legion Duke pondered, his thoughts cold as he considered the man. He picked up his sword and said, if he were an ordinary person, he couldn't have vanished in a thin air so suddenly. The Legion Duke thought, if Lu Ro and I hadn't suddenly screamed and stopped me, I wouldn't have let him escape. He angrily crumpled the letter, tossing it aside, blaming himself for being so careless. The Legion Duke harbored resentment towards the stranger, affirming, Lu Ro and I, she is mine. He vented his anger on her, calling her a witch. You cursed this family, making me lose my sense of taste. You pretend to be foolish, but in reality, you are helping your allies. Suddenly, the butler knocked. Duke, your dinner is ready. Before the butler could finish, he shouted, I don't need it. Just as the butler was about to retreat, the Legion Duke commanded, give the food to her. Terrified, the butler dared not question, only obey. Each piece of succulent roast meat looked incredibly delicious. Lu Ro and I put it in her mouth, savoring it, a look of joy and contentment spreading across her face. As she tasted the delicious meat, she thought, Kue might be worried about me. But a sudden wave of worry and panic washed over her. I wonder how the Legion Duke is eating, she thought. In her eyes, he was truly handsome, incredibly attractive. She worried. He once said he couldn't eat anything except what I made. I bet he's been starving for days. Suddenly, she had an unexpected realization and reasoned. What's wrong with me? Why should I worry about the man who locked me in this room? Thinking this, she continued eating to vent her anger, pushing thoughts of him away. I don't care if he starves to death. Abruptly, she stopped, sighing, her expression betraying her concern for him. Really, she bit her lip hard. No matter how hard I try, he still doesn't believe me. Sadness etched itself onto her face, tears welling in her eyes. Angrily, she cursed under her breath. Such a strange man. Stupid. Obtuse. Bea prainet. Annoying. No sooner had the words left her lips than a knock echoed on the door. Her face paled, fear gripping her that the Legion Duke had heard everything she'd said. She looked nervously at the door and called out, Who is it? The butler entered, his gaze contemplative. Miss Lu Ro and I, it's me, Butler Kai. Outside, a torrential downpour raged, the sound of the rain gradually fading, the initial boisterousness replaced by a somber atmosphere. She asked the butler, wonderingly, even though I'm in prison, can I still leave the room? He replied, Yes, that is correct. She continued, If so, can I go alone? He answered, his voice still deep, Yes. The butler's continuous affirmative responses made her suspicious. This is strange. I have a bad feeling. Despite her apprehension, she followed the butler. On the way, she anxiously asked him, My room is in the basement. Hearing this, he paused before answering in his deep voice, I apologize, Miss Lu Ro and I. Upon hearing his answer, she froze, becoming like a lifeless doll. Her gaze was icy, the sky within her a desolate expanse, negative thoughts swirling like a suffocating fog. As expected, I'm going to be imprisoned. A wave of self-pity washed over her. Is it because of something I did at the market? She walked on, trembling, her thoughts racing. Last time I was allowed to leave, but this time it's different. After all, the Legion Duke won't listen to me. Fearful tremors racked her body, rooting her to the spot. The butler was approaching. A daring thought flickered in her mind. Should I run? In the flickering firelight, the flames seemed to strain against the oppressive darkness of the prison. The deep, gloomy space was broken by the sound of approaching footsteps, growing steadily louder. My lord, he turned to face the newcomer. You've arrived, Kai? Did you bring her? The head butler's expression was somber. From behind him, a voice answered, I'm here. Lu Ro and I emerged from behind the butler, anxiously confirming her presence. I'm here. Recalling the moment when she'd considered escaping, she stifled a sigh of disappointment, reigning in her impulsive desire. I can't run. If I flee this place, the Legion Duke will become even more suspicious. Then there will be a huge misunderstanding, and I won't be able to talk to him. So I should meet him and explain everything calmly. If that doesn't work, I might be imprisoned. I might even be tortured on the spot. Yet, she clung to a sliver of hope, comforting herself with the thought, at least I have some good memories. She steeled her resolve to face him and clarify the situation. I don't want to run anymore. Lu Ro and I faced the Duke, summoning all her courage. I'm here. His eyes were bloodshot, blazing with a fury that seemed ready to consume her. He suddenly seized her hand in a vice-like grip, startling her. Wait, Legion Duke, please let go of me, she stammered, fear gripping her voice. He was seething, his frustration threatening to boil over, yet he seemed to be fighting for control. Listen carefully. This is something I've never done to other witches before. Lu Ro and I was taken aback by the shift in the Legion Duke's demeanor. His words were like a sudden, unexpected breeze. In that moment, she sensed a difference in him, a fragility she hadn't noticed before. He seemed thinner, somehow. She reached for his hand, her own words catching in her throat. With utmost sincerity, she pleaded, "But, Legion Duke, please listen to my explanation first." He froze, stunned by her words. Confusion warred with the anger in his eyes. He pushed her hand away, demanding, "What?" Lu Ro and I faltered, her eyes pleading. "Legion Duke," she stammered, tears welling up. "What? Why have you lost so much weight?" Her voice was thick with concern, tears streaming down her face. He stared at her, speechless, his thoughts a tangled mess. He remembered the words he'd spoken to the butler. "I will torture her. I don't care if she reveals that information." If they thought of their people first, instead of themselves, they could lure all the witches away. The butler had tried to persuade him, but his mind had been made up. He dismissed him with a curt, "You heard me. Now leave." He'd convinced himself that her concern was a facade, a cruel pretense. That fake face. "You didn't eat properly while I was locked up." He clutched his chest, as if questioning the reality of his own pain. Suddenly, the girl behind the Duke spoke. "Duke, is this her? The troublesome one?" Her words snapped him back to the present. The girl continued. "So, shall I begin torturing this girl?" "Yes," he began to reply, then abruptly stopped himself. "No, something's not right. Lock her up until I give further orders." He turned and left, but not before issuing a final warning. "Don't touch her until then." As soon as he was gone, the soldiers exchanged worried glances. "Duke, is something wrong?" "This urgent matter." The Duke commanded Butler Kai, "Quickly call the doctor." "Yes, at once." The Legion Duke covered his mouth, fighting back a wave of nausea. Something's wrong, he thought. Meanwhile, in a small tavern, young men argued amongst themselves. "I'm telling you no. He's lying again. Even if he's strong and tall, so what? How could he possibly find it, even though it hasn't appeared around here? No. I heard it was the Legion Duke's men. He's imprisoning the little witch in the dungeon and torturing her." The stranger who had been sitting at the next table fell silent. A glass slammed down on the table, making a piercing sound. The proprietress angrily scolded the disgusting patrons. "Quiet down, you customers. Please leave." A purple mist appeared again. Are there still witches in this world? In an instant, the patrons vanished. The shopkeeper wondered, where did those customers go? The torches blazed. Lu Ro and I, locked in a dark dungeon, shivered. "I'm freezing. If I had known this would happen, I would have dressed more warmly," she lamented dejectedly. "It will be soon." Recalling the Legion Duke's expression at the time, he hadn't looked well. Does he despise me? Or, suddenly, a gust of wind blew past, extinguishing the candle and interrupting her thoughts. The flame died, and darkness gradually engulfed her. "Wait, has the torch burned out?" She sat despondently, looking up at the ceiling, hoping for a miracle to appear and help her. She was optimistic, but reality slapped her in the face with a cold gust of wind. They hadn't spared her, leaving her trembling and afraid. Suddenly, a hand gripped her shoulder. "Miss Lu Ro and I?" She screamed in terror. The man reassured her, "Wait." This only frightened her more, and she cried out, "Help!" The man struck a match and said, "Please calm down." He held the match, giving her more light, allowing her to feel reassured and calm. He approached. "It's me," he soothed. "Please be at ease." She stammered, unsure if she should trust this person. Then, the man gradually brought the match closer to himself, his figure slowly coming into view. "It was the butler, Kai." He replied, "It's me. I brought you some food. You haven't eaten since last night, miss." She hesitated. He opened the lid of the food container. The chef made this cream soup and bread. Seeing the delicious food before her, she couldn't hide her emotions, exclaiming, "I'm really hungry." She asked, "It must have been hard for you too, right?" The butler didn't answer, instead saying, "You can eat now." Lu Ro and I happily accepted the food, chewing and thanking him. Seeing her naive manner, he couldn't help but smile secretly. As soon as she put down her chopsticks, he called out, "Lu Ro and I." She looked at him, chewing the last of her food, and replied, "Yes." Kai asked her, "Why didn't you run away back then?" This seemed to strike a chord within her. Feigning a stutter, she asked, "Run away? What do you mean?" He continued honestly. "From the moment you stepped out of that room, you couldn't have predicted what would happen. You only knew to answer along with them. Those times when I was waiting outside for you to change your clothes, or those times when you walked through the hall when there was no one around. There were clearly many opportunities." She was still thinking about how to answer him, still responding with, she decided to reveal all her feelings to him. "Actually, I thought the Legion Duke would interrogate me, that I had made him suspicious, but it was just a misunderstanding. So I thought we could sit down calmly and talk to each other like nothing had happened. But I didn't expect him to want to torture me. It was terrifying," she recounted, expressing her anger. "It's really unfair to me." Touched by her heartfelt words, Kai asked if there was anything he could do to help her. "Lu Ro and I, what happened to the market?" She replied, "The market." She gritted her teeth, answering casually, "Nothing much. I just wanted to say it directly. There's a truth. Curses don't stack." Hearing this, the Legion Duke asked, "What does that mean?" When the Duke came to the kingdom, information was leaked. This was a conversation between the senators responsible and the Legion Duke. The senator explained to him, "It is said that if one witch curses someone, another witch's curse cannot take effect." The Duke said, "If it's not because of a curse, then why is my heart beating so fast?" Hearing this, the senator fell silent, thinking about it from another perspective, if this is really the case. "Your Highness, this kind of symptom is quite common among young people. However, the first time is rather confusing, but gradually you will find the reason and the solution. What's important is that when you feel pain, you follow your heart." Hearing this, the Duke froze, snapping, "What are you talking about?" Seeing this, the senator secretly affirmed his suspicions. "It seems that this is it," the senator suddenly requested. "Your Grace," the senator asked with a smile, "can I meet that witch later?" He said, "Of course. I was planning to show her to you anyway." The senator thanked him and then left. "All right, I'll take my leave." Night fell. In the Duke's room, he listened to the information he had gathered. As he wished, she wasn't tortured. She said she wants to reconcile. He retorted, "So what? Isn't she just justifying her actions in the market?" The butler, sweating, stammered, "It's like this." He retold the whole story to him. "The young lady said that day was my first time going out with your Grace." Upon hearing this, he froze, not understanding. "What is?" She continued, "So, I made a list of plans, leaving the mansion. I had a lot of expectations for this trip. I was also looking forward to shopping with your Grace, wanting to buy everything, buy a lot of food, maybe make some new dishes, but I was afraid that causing harm to others on the first day out would make him not let me out again. So, I stopped him. I knew doing so would be a little uncomfortable, but, Butler, can you give me another bowl?" He presented the whole story to the Legion Duke. Hearing this, he realized, so she didn't want to ruin the trip with me. He slumped onto the desk, feeling uncomfortable, a little guilty. He continued to ask the butler, "Is there anything else?" The butler stammered, "Yes, there's something else. Regarding the witch, what your Grace said wasn't that bad." He replied, "No, I mean besides food, does she need anything else?" The Duke's image at that moment seemed shy, embarrassment filled with the joy of love. The butler gaped, unable to believe the Duke was willing to do anything for a girl. "What is going on?" After that conversation, the prison where she was held was like a castle. Countless torches were lit in the corridor, as if the Duke's heart was burning. The place where she lay, the place where she stayed, was clean, spotless, completely renewed. Delicious food was laid out on the table, everything renewed, sparkling, dazzling her. She was surprised, not knowing what had happened, wondering, what are these things? The last candle in the prison was lit, which also marked the beginning of happy things. Coming to her side, the maid asked, "Is this everything you want?" The young lady replied, "Could there be more?" She wore gorgeous clothes and sat at a table laden with food. As if feasting, she wondered, "Why did you bring me so much food?" The maid rubbed her head. "I don't know either," she replied with a gentle smile. "I'm just following the Duke's instructions." Hearing this, the young lady became suspicious. "What's going on? I guess I'm still being tortured," she stammered. So, thinking of this, a chill ran down her spine. Panicking, she stabbed a piece of meat with her fork and shouted angrily, "But think about it. Eat first, eat, and then talk." After she had eaten her fill, the maid was already waiting to clean up for her. She thought, after eating, could this be my last meal? They had planned to torture me, but why did they bring me clothes and food? Could this also be a form of torture? Let me experience the feeling of happiness, and then take it all away. She remembered the maid's words. Is this all you ever wanted? The thought alone brought a fresh wave of regret, and tears welled in her eyes. Lu Ro and I collapsed despondently on her new bed. If I really die, then I want to see my sauce pots one last time. She moaned tearfully, regretting how little she had asked for. When my soybean paste runs out, I'll make kimchi stew. Kimchi stew with fatty pork and spicy broth, with a scoop of rice, and maybe some rolled omelet or soybean paste sauce on the side. That would be divine. The flavor would be just like traditional soybean paste stew if you eat it with rice. Just thinking about it makes my mouth water. She nodded, 2 lines of regretful tears tracing paths down her fingers. But maybe tomorrow, I'll have to say goodbye to my soup pots, and I won't be able to cook with Kai anymore. She sat blankly on the bed, soulless, writing her will in her mind. A week had passed, each day a repetition of the last. Every day the maid brought her delicious food, and today was no different. She had just finished eating. I'm so full. The maid, seeing that she was finished, requested permission to clear the dishes. Ah, yes, she replied, sitting there, her thoughts floating. How long has it been since I've been outside? I feel healthier than ever. I have to ask, she questioned the maid. By the way, when is my execution? The maid replied, yes. Aside from being instructed to care for you as fully as possible, I haven't heard anything. She explained. What the? I don't understand what the Legion Duke is thinking. Meanwhile, the Duke was putting on his coat, as if preparing to go somewhere. The senator said, there are no issues today. It's just that she needs some nourishment. He sarcastically told the senator, whose forte was stating the obvious. The senator narrowed his eyes and smiled. Then, please keep in mind the unusual prescription I gave you last time. With that, the senator opened the door and walked straight out, leaving the Duke stunned. His words reminded him of the most important thing. When you are in pain, follow your heart. The senator left, slamming the door shut, causing a loud bang. Witnessing this, the Duke snapped. Impudent. The word echoed in his mind. Follow your heart. He made up his mind. I've thought it through. My only thought towards witches is hatred. He recalled that year. My father, the former Duke, died an early death due to a witch's curse. My mother, from another country, left the dukedom. All the responsibility fell on my shoulders, but I must control my emotions. Absolute loyalty. Father, magic, taste, emotions. That which stole everything. But he felt that Lu Ro and I wasn't that kind of person. What is she doing? On the contrary, he recalled the taste of the dishes she used to make for him. The food I make, is it really that delicious? I put my heart and soul into it, he pondered, standing still. Unacceptable. Is she really a witch? Suddenly, footsteps approached the door. Someone was calling him. Your Grace. He opened the door and, surprised to see the senator, asked, did you forget something? You've come back. The senator replied, yes. I don't understand what you're talking about. I just arrived. The senator went to the prison where Lu Ro and I was being held. Lu Ro and I looked at him and asked, who are you? He didn't answer her question, simply replying, I heard you were imprisoned, so I came to see what was going on. She asked, well, the Legion Duke. Seeing that he wasn't addressing the crux of her question, she angrily shouted, who are you, anyway? He replied, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. He put his hand in his pocket, preparing to introduce himself. I am. The Duke angrily questioned the senator. What do you mean? Weren't you here for a week examining me? He replied, impossible. I resigned and came as soon as I received the Duke's summons. Hearing this, the Duke was shocked, seemingly realizing something. Meanwhile, Lu Ro and I was also surprised, realizing, don't tell me. The stranger she'd encountered at the market now stood before her, enthusiastically greeting her. It's a pleasure to see you again, Lu Ro and I.